Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Nightmare Narratives. I am your storyteller, and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious. Where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Jackson Morrison, but everyone calls me Jax. I'm 39 years old, and I work as a park ranger here in Big Bend National Park, Texas. It's 1962, and the world feels like it's about to end any day now. The news keeps talking about missiles in Cuba and nuclear bombs, but out here in the desert, I thought I was safe from all that madness. I was wrong. It started on a Tuesday afternoon in October. The heat was so bad it made the air dance like water, and the Red Canyon walls looked like they were moving. I was sitting on a rock, drinking my coffee from an old metal cup, but something was off about the taste today. It tasted like pennies, the same metallic taste I remembered from my canteen back in Korea during the war. That war changed me. I did things I'm not proud of. Things I try not to think about when I'm alone out here in the quiet desert. A roadrunner was chasing a lizard near my feet, but suddenly both animals stopped dead in their tracks. They just stood there, staring at me with the strangest look in their eyes. It was like they were scared of something, but not of me, of something else. My radio crackled to life. All stations, DEFCON 2 is still in effect. Stay alert. The voice was tense, worried. 200 miles away, they were testing nuclear bombs in the Nevada desert. I could almost feel the radiation in the air, even from that far away. I looked down at my shadow on the ground and froze. It was pointing the wrong way. The sun was right above me, but my shadow stretched toward the east instead of straight. Down. I blinked hard and looked again. Now it was normal. Must be the heat getting to me. The canyon walls around me were covered in old Indian drawings, petroglyphs they call them, pictures carved into the rock by Comanche Indians over 100 years ago. I'd seen them thousands of times, but today they looked different. When I wasn't looking straight at them, they seemed to move, like they were telling a story about a great battle, about people dying. The silence was the worst part. Not the normal quiet you get in the desert, but a thick, heavy silence that felt wrong, like someone had turned off all the sound in the world. Under my shirt, I wore my old war medal on a chain. For some reason, it felt hot against my chest today, burning hot. I also wore my wife Sarah's wedding ring on the same chain. She died 3 years ago in a car crash while I was out drinking, celebrating another day of just surviving. The ring was made from metal I found at an old cavalry fort nearby, a fort that was built right on top of an old Indian burial ground. My left hand started shaking. It always does that when I think about the war, about the men I left behind in the snow in Korea. I abandoned my whole platoon during a retreat, left them to freeze to death while I ran away to save myself. Some hero, right? 3 days ago, my German shepherd dog Sergeant disappeared near some caves where the Indians used to bury their dead. I've been looking for him ever since, but it's like he just vanished into thin air. I know every rock, every cactus, every hole in the ground for 50 miles around here, but today, nothing looked familiar. It was like I was in a completely different place, even though I knew I wasn't. A dust devil. One of those little tornadoes made of dust, formed about 20 feet away from me, but it was spinning the wrong way. They always spin clockwise here because of the way the wind moves, but this one was going backwards, against nature. I laughed to myself, trying to shake off the creepy feeling. At least the dead can't follow me all the way out here to Texas. I said out loud. I shouldn't have said that. The air got colder, even though the sun was still blazing hot. Something was coming. I could feel it in my bones, in my blood, in the metal ring burning against my chest. Something that had been waiting a very long time to find me. Something that knew all about the men I'd abandoned and why I really came to hide in this empty desert. The petroglyphs on the canyon walls started to glow with a faint, sickly light. And in that moment, I realized that running away doesn't work when the thing chasing you isn't alive. The dead have all the time in the world to catch up. The next morning, I went looking for Sargent again. I had to find my dog. He was all I had left of normal in this world. I walked toward the caves where he'd disappeared. The sand felt different under my boots. Softer, like it had been dug up recently. As I got closer to the cave entrance, I saw something that made my blood turn cold. Sargent's collar was lying on the ground. But it wasn't just dropped there. Someone had arranged it in a perfect circle. Inside the circle were small bones. Animal bones, I told myself. They had to be animal bones. I picked up the collar with shaking hands. It was torn, like something big had ripped it off. There was no blood, though. No fur, no sign of a fight. Just the collar and those little white bones arranged so carefully. I looked around and saw something else that didn't make sense. The sand around the cave had marks in it. Long, winding marks like a giant snake had been crawling around. But these marks were huge, wider than my whole body. And they seemed to form shapes, letters, symbols. I walked along the marks, trying to read them. They looked like the old Indian writing I'd seen on the canyon walls. I couldn't read Indian, but something about these marks made my stomach hurt, like they were spelling out something bad, something about abandoned people. My coffee that morning tasted even worse than the day before. Not just like pennies now, but bitter and nasty, like medicine. Like the herbs my grandmother used to make when someone was dying. I was standing there trying to figure out what happened to Sargent when the sky lit up. A bright flash came from the west, where they were testing those nuclear bombs in Nevada. For just a second, the whole desert looked like it was on fire. The flash was so bright I could see it, even though it was daytime, and the bomb was 200 miles away. When the light faded, I saw something that made me want to run. About a mile down the canyon, I could see what looked like a campsite. Tents and sleeping bags all set up nice and neat. But I knew for sure that no campers had been there yesterday. I would have seen them. I walked over to check it out. Maybe some tourists had come in during the night. But as I got closer, my skin started crawling. The sleeping bags were arranged in perfect rows. Like soldiers' beds, and they were old, really old. The fabric was faded and torn, like they'd been sitting in the sun for years. I unzipped one of the sleeping bags. Inside were bones, human bones. Old bones that had been white from the sun for a long, long time, but they were arranged like a person was still sleeping in there. Arms folded, legs straight, like someone had tucked a skeleton into bed. I checked another bag, more bones, all arranged the same way. My hands were shaking bad now. I reached for my compass to make sure I could find my way back to the ranger station. But when I looked at it, the needle was pointing the wrong way. Instead of pointing north, it was pointing toward the burial caves. That's when I found my dog tags in the sand. My own dog tags. The ones I was wearing around my neck at that very moment. I felt for the chain around my neck. The tags were still there, but here was another set buried in the sand like they'd been there for years. Same name, same number, same everything. I dug them up with my hands. They were tarnished and old, but I could still read my name, Jackson Morrison, my service number from Korea. How could my dog tags be buried here when I was still wearing them? I spit, and my spit was red. Blood. It tasted like copper and something else, something that made me think of all the men I'd left behind in the snow. I looked back at the Indian pictures on the canyon walls. Now I could see them clearly. They showed a long snake made out of bones chasing soldiers on horses. The soldiers were running away, leaving other soldiers behind, just like I did in Korea. And at the bottom of the pictures, carved into the rock, were numbers. My unit number from the war. The wind picked up, and I heard something that made my heart stop. Voices, men's voices, calling my name. "Lieutenant Morrison," they called. "Lieutenant, why did you leave us?" Those were the voices of my men, the ones I abandoned in Korea. The ones who froze to death because I ran away. But that was impossible. Those men were dead. They died on the other side of the world 12 years ago. Lieutenant Morrison, the voices called again, closer now. Why did you leave us to die? I looked around, but I couldn't see anyone. Just the empty desert, the hot sun, and those old bones scattered around the fake campsite. Then I realized something that made my knees weak. This wasn't a random place. This canyon, these caves, this burial ground. It was all connected to my family. My great-grandfather had been a cavalry officer here in the 1800s. He'd fought the Comanche Indians. He told me stories when I was little about the battles, about how they'd won by being smart and fast. He never told me about running away and leaving people behind. But maybe that's how my family survived. Maybe that's what we did. We ran when things got bad, and we left other people to die. The metal ring on my chest, Sarah's wedding ring, was getting hotter. So hot it was starting to burn my skin. The ring I'd made from metal I found at the old cavalry fort. The fort my great-grandfather helped build. The fort that was built right on top of where the Indians buried their dead. I looked up at the sky. Another flash was coming from Nevada, another bomb test. And in that flash, I saw something moving in the distance. Something big, something that looked like it was made of bones, coming right toward me. I stood there watching that thing move across the desert toward me. At first I thought maybe it was just the heat making me see things. The desert does that sometimes, makes you see water where there isn't any, makes rocks look like people. But this was real. It moved like a snake, but it was huge, bigger than any snake that ever lived. And as it got closer, I could see what it was really made of. Bones. Human bones, all connected together, like someone had built a giant snake out of skeletons. The bones were old and white from years in the sun, but they moved like they were alive, like they remembered how to be a body. The head of the thing was a skull, not just any skull. This one was different, bigger. It had feathers and beads, still attached to it like it belonged to an Indian chief. And I knew somehow that this was Chief Running Bear. My great-grandfather had told me about him, how he'd killed him in battle and taken his skull as a prize. The thing stopped about 50 feet away from me. It raised its head up high, and I could see how long it really was, maybe 60 feet from head to tail, all made of bones from dead people. Then it spoke, but it didn't use the chief's voice. It used voices I knew. Voices that still came to me, in nightmares. Lieutenant Morrison, it said in Tommy Chen's voice. Tommy was the youngest guy in my platoon, only 19 when he froze to death in Korea. Why did you leave us behind? We trusted you, it said in another voice. That was Bill Santos. He had 3 kids back home. We followed you and you ran away. You were supposed to take care of us, said Mike Johnson's voice. Mike had saved my life twice before I left him to die. I tried to back away, but my legs wouldn't move. The thing slithered closer, and I could see that the bones weren't just random. They were arranged to tell a story. My story. My family's story. Some of the bones had cavalry uniforms still hanging on them. Those were from soldiers my great-grandfather had fought with, and then abandoned when things got tough. Some bones wore Chinese army clothes. Those were from Korea, from battles where American soldiers ran and left their buddies behind. And some of the bones were wearing park ranger uniforms just like mine. Your family has been running away for a long time, Lieutenant, the thing said. Now it was using my great-grandfather's voice, a voice I remembered from when I was little. We run when things get hard. We save ourselves and let other people die. I reached for my gun, but my hand was shaking so bad I could barely get it out of the holster. When I finally pulled it out and tried to shoot, nothing happened. The gun was jammed. I looked at it closer. The metal of the gun barrel was old and rusty, like it had been buried in the ground for years. Just like Sarah's ring, just like my buried dog tags. Everything metal I owned was turning old and broken. The metal remembers, the thing said in Sarah's voice now. That hurt worse than all the others. It remembers where it came from. The fort, the burial ground, the sacred place your family built on top of our bones. The creature moved closer. I could smell it now. Old death, dry bones, and something else. Something that smelled like the fear sweat from that night in Korea when I decided to save myself instead of my men. I can show you everyone your family left behind, it said. 3 generations of Morrison men who ran when others needed them most. The bones started rearranging themselves. They formed pictures like a movie made of skeletons. I saw my great-grandfather's cavalry unit retreating from an Indian village, leaving wounded soldiers behind. I saw my father's squad in World War, one running from a trench while other soldiers got shot. And I saw myself in Korea, sneaking away in the dark while my men slept, not knowing they'd be dead by morning. "We are all here," the thing said. "Everyone you abandoned, everyone your family abandoned. We've been waiting in this place, in these bones, for someone from your family to come back." Another nuclear flash lit up the sky from Nevada. In that bright light, I could see more creatures moving in the distance. Bone snakes, bone birds, bone people walking across the desert, all made from the skeletons of people who died feeling left behind. "The radiation wakes us up," the thing explained. "All that atomic energy from the bomb tests. It gives us the power to move, to hunt, to find the people who wronged us." I wanted to run. Every part of me was screaming to run, just like I always did. But something stopped me. Maybe it was seeing all those bones arranged to show my family's shame. Maybe it was hearing my dead wife's voice coming from that skull. Or maybe I was just tired of running. "What do you want?" I asked. The creature's skull tilted to one side, like it was thinking. "We want you to choose, Lieutenant Morrison. You can join us. Become part of the Bone Garden with all the other people who died alone and afraid. Or what? Or you can do something your family has never done. You can stay, you can fight, you can protect someone else instead of saving yourself." I looked around. There was nobody else here to protect, just me and this thing made of bones. "There will be others," it said, reading my thoughts. "More people will come to this place. Campers, hikers, other rangers. And when they do, you can choose. Save them or save yourself." The creature raised itself up tall, swaying back and forth like a real snake getting ready to strike. The bones rattled against each other, making a sound like dry leaves in the wind. "But first," it said, in all the voices at once, "my soldiers, my wife, my ancestors, first you have to survive us." That's when it attacked. The bone snake came at me fast, faster than anything that big should be able to move. I dove to the side, just as its skull crashed into the rock where I'd been standing. Pieces of bone scattered everywhere, but they immediately started crawling back toward the main body like living things. I rolled behind a boulder and tried to think, how do you fight something that's already dead? How do you kill bones? The creature laughed with a dozen different voices. "You can't kill what's already been killed, Lieutenant, but you can join us. It would be so much easier." I looked at Sarah's ring, still burning hot against my chest. The metal that came from this place, from the old fort built on sacred ground. And suddenly, I understood what I had to do. I pulled Sarah's wedding ring off the chain around my neck. The metal was so hot it burned my fingers, but I held on tight. This ring was made from metal I'd found at the old cavalry fort. The fort my great-grandfather helped build right on top of where the Indians buried their dead. The metal wanted to go home. "You're right," I called out to the bone snake. "My family has been running away for too long, but I'm not going to run anymore." I stepped out from behind the boulder. The creature was coiled up like a spring, ready to attack again. Its skull head turned toward me, and I could see something like surprise in those empty eye holes. "I'm going to give you back what we took," I said, holding up the ring. The bone snake stopped moving. All the rattling sounds stopped. Even the wind went quiet. "The metal remembers where it came from," I said, repeating what the creature had told me. "So I'm giving it back." I walked toward the burial caves where this whole thing started. The creature followed me, but it didn't attack. It just slithered alongside me like it was curious about what I was going to do. When I got to the cave entrance, I knelt down and dug a small hole in the sand with my hands. The same sand where I'd found my own dog tags buried. The same sand where Sergeant's collar had been arranged in that perfect circle. I placed Sarah's ring in the hole. "I'm sorry," I said to the bones scattered around the cave. "I'm sorry my great-grandfather built his fort on your burial ground. I'm sorry he killed Chief Running Bear and took his skull. I'm sorry my family has been running away and leaving people behind for 3 generations." I covered the ring with sand. The bone snake watched me, its head swaying back and forth. Then it spoke in Chief Running Bear's real voice, deep and sad and tired. "Words are wind, Morrison man. What will you do?" Before I could answer, I heard voices in the distance. Real voices this time, not ghost voices. A family was hiking into the canyon, a man, a woman, and 2 little kids. Tourists who didn't know they were walking into a place full of angry spirits. The bone snake heard them too. Its skull turned toward the sound, and I could feel its hunger. All those bones wanted revenge, and these innocent people would do just fine. "There," the creature said. "Now you choose. Run and save yourself, or stay and protect them." I looked at the hiking family getting closer. The kids were laughing, playing some kind of game as they walked. They had no idea what was waiting. For them, my legs wanted to run. Every muscle in my body was telling me to get out of there, to let someone else deal with this problem. That's what Morrison men did. That's what we'd always done. But I thought about Tommy Chen, 19 years old, freezing to death in Korea, because I ran away. I thought about Bill Santos and his 3 kids back home. I thought about Sarah dying alone in that car crash while I was out celebrating my own survival. I thought about all the bones in that creature, all the people who died feeling abandoned and afraid. "No," I said, "I'm not running anymore." The bone snake reared up, angry now. "Then you will die with them." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I won't die alone." I pulled out my broken gun. It was still jammed, still rusty and old, but I had an idea. I smashed the gun against the rocks until it broke apart. Then I took the pieces of metal and threw them into the burial cave with Sarah's ring. "All of it goes back," I said. "Every piece of metal my family took from this place." I took off my dog tags, both the ones I was wearing and the ones I'd found buried in the sand. I threw them into the cave too. The bone snake was getting bigger, angrier. More bones were crawling out of the sand to join it. Bones from the fake campsite. Bones from the caves, bones that had been buried here for over 100 years. But something else was happening too. The bones that belonged to my soldiers, Tommy and Bill and Mike and all the others, they were starting to separate from the creature. They were sinking back into the sand, finally at peace. "You can't have them," I told the remaining bones. "They're not yours anymore. I'm taking responsibility for them now." The creature lunged at me, but I didn't move. I stood my ground and grabbed onto its skull with both hands. Chief Running Bear's skull, taken by my great-grandfather all those years ago. The bones were cold and sharp, cutting my hands, but I held on. "I'm not my great-grandfather," I said to the skull. "I'm not my father. I'm staying right here." Another nuclear flash lit up the sky, but this time, instead of making the creature stronger, the light seemed to hurt it. The bones started falling apart, scattering in the sand. The skull in my hands got heavier and heavier, like it was turning back into regular bone instead of something magical and angry. "This is your burial ground," I said to Chief Running Bear. "I'm giving it back to you. No more forts, no more taking what isn't ours, just peace. The skull crumbled in my hands, turning to dust that blew away in the wind. The rest of the bone snake collapsed, all the pieces falling to the ground and sinking into the sand where they belonged. The hiking family walked into the canyon just as the last bones disappeared. The man waved at me. "Beautiful day for a hike," he called out. "Yes, it is," I called back. They walked past me toward the petroglyphs on the canyon walls. The kids ran ahead, laughing and pointing at the old Indian pictures that now looked peaceful instead of angry. I sat down on a rock and watched them explore. My hands were cut up from grabbing the skull, but they didn't hurt much. The metallic taste was gone from my mouth. Sarah's ring was buried where it belonged, and I felt lighter without it. That's when I saw her. Sarah was standing by the cave entrance, looking just like she did the day she died. But she wasn't angry or sad. She was smiling. "I'm proud of you, Jax," she said. "You finally did the right thing." "Does this mean you forgive me?" I asked. She laughed, and it sounded like wind chimes. "Forgive you for what?" "For being human, for making mistakes. I forgave you a long time ago, honey. I was just waiting for you to forgive yourself." "But I got you killed. I was drunk when you crashed because I was out celebrating." "Celebrating? That you survived Korea," she said. "You felt guilty for living when your men died, so you tried to drink away the guilt." "I understood that, Jax. I always understood." She started to fade away, becoming see-through like morning mist. "But Sarah," I called out, "don't go, I need you." "No, you don't," she said, "not anymore. You're going to be fine. You're going to stay here and protect this place, protect the people who come here. That's your job now." "What about us? What about our marriage?" She winked at me. "Death doesn't end love, Jax. It just changes it. I'll always be part of you, but you don't need to carry me around your neck anymore." And then she was gone. I looked around the canyon. The hiking family was still exploring, safe and happy. The petroglyphs on the walls looked normal again. The sand was smooth, with no signs of the bone creatures that had been crawling around just minutes before. I realized I could see them now, the spirits of all the people my family had abandoned over the years. But they weren't angry anymore. They were just there, watching over the place, making sure nobody else got hurt. Tommy Chen gave me a little salute before he faded away. Bill Santos nodded at me like he was saying, "Good job." Mike Johnson actually smiled. "Thank you, Lieutenant," he said. "Thank you for finally doing what you should have done." I became the permanent guardian of Devil's Canyon after that. I never left, never ran away again. People would come to hike and camp, and I'd make sure they were safe. I'd tell them about the history of the place, about the Comanche Indians who were buried here, about respecting the land and the people who came before us. Sometimes, late at night, I could still hear voices calling my name. But they weren't angry voices anymore. They were just letting me know they were still there, still watching, still trusting me to do the right thing. And for the first time in my life, I didn't let them down. My name is Ruth Hawthorne, but everyone calls me Tank. I'm 43 years old, and I work as a park ranger in the Superior National Forest in Minnesota. But before this job, I was a medic in Vietnam. Some days, I wish I could forget that part of my life completely. It was December 23rd, 1976. Snow was falling all around me, but it looked strange that day. The flakes weren't white and fluffy like they should be. They looked gray, like ash falling from the sky. It reminded me of something I didn't want to remember, the chemicals we used to spray on trees in the jungle. Agent Orange, they called it. Watching those gray flakes fall made my hands shake. I was walking through the forest when I heard loud, banging sounds coming from the towns far away. Fireworks, I knew. People were celebrating America's 200th birthday with big parties and parades. But those sounds didn't make me happy. They sounded exactly like the bombs and guns from the war. My heart started beating fast, and I felt sweat on my face even though it was freezing cold. For a moment everything felt quiet and peaceful. Then I looked at my breath in the cold air. Usually your breath just makes white clouds when it's cold. But mine was different. The white clouds were shaped like tiny American flags. I blinked hard, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me. But they were still there. The cold was getting worse and fast. When I started my walk, it was about 20 degrees. Not too bad for December, but now it felt like 40 below zero. The change happened so quickly that my body couldn't keep up. I started shaking all over, and not just from the cold. When the cold comes this fast, it usually means something very bad is about to happen. Even the wind sounded weird. I could hear music in it, the Star-Spangled Banner. But it wasn't being played on instruments. It sounded like someone was playing it on bones, frozen bones that made clicking and rattling sounds with each note. That's when I saw the red squirrel sitting on a tree branch near me. It looked right at me and opened its mouth. "Happy birthday, America," it said in perfect English, like a person talking. Then it stopped moving completely. Frozen solid, right there on the branch. I laughed, but not because it was funny. I laughed because I was going crazy. "Great," I said out loud to myself. "Even the animals have gone patriotic and nuts." I looked up at the sky and saw something that made no sense at all. The northern lights were dancing across the dark sky, but they weren't green and blue like they should be. They were red, white, and blue. They looked exactly like the American flag waving in the wind. I know about northern lights. They don't work that way. They can't make patterns like flags. It's impossible. My snowshoes were making crunching sounds as I walked, but then I heard a loud crack. I looked down and saw that the ice under my feet was breaking. But there shouldn't have been ice there at all. The ground was just dirt and snow. This kind of ice doesn't form in this weather. As I kept walking, I started seeing strange lights in the distance. They were coming from old wooden posts stuck in the ground. I knew what those posts were. They marked graves of Native American people who had lived in these woods long ago. The posts were glowing with a cold blue light that hurt my eyes to look at. I remembered hearing that some construction workers had been digging around those graves a few months ago. They were building new things for the big birthday celebration. They had moved some of the old markers and dug up the ground around them. The native people in town had been very upset about it, but nobody listened to them. Now those old grave markers were glowing like they were angry. And the cold was getting worse with each step I took toward them. I should tell you about myself, so you understand why this story matters. Why I ended up in these woods in the first place. Before I became a park ranger, I was a medic in Vietnam. I saved lives over there, or at least I tried to, but I also lost my medical license when I came back home. There was this one night, about 3 years ago. I had been drinking too much. I did that a lot back then, still do sometimes if I'm being honest. A fellow veteran came to my house. He'd been shot in a bar fight. He was bleeding bad and couldn't afford to go to the hospital. So I tried to help him. I set up my old medical tools on my kitchen table just like I used to do in the jungle. But my hands were shaking from the alcohol and I made a mistake. A big one. He died right there on my table. His blood was all over my kitchen floor. The police came and they took away my license to practice medicine. They said I was drunk and dangerous. They were right. That's why I'm out here in the woods. Now, I figured I couldn't hurt anyone if I stayed away from people. The forest doesn't judge you for your mistakes. Trees don't care if you've got shaky hands or if you wake up screaming at night, but the dreams still come. Almost every night, I dream that I'm performing surgery again. I wake up with my hands covered in blood, but I never remember where it came from. Sometimes I find small dead animals near my cabin in the morning. Rabbits, squirrels, birds, all cut open like someone tried to operate on them. I think it's me doing it, but I can't remember. My hands are missing 2 fingers on the left side. Lost them to frostbite during the war. I was trying to save 3 soldiers who were freezing to death in a cold mountain area. I stayed out in the snow with them for 6 hours until help came. All 3 of them lived. I lost my fingers, but they lived. It was worth it. I still carry my father's old hunting rifle with me everywhere I go. It's a 36, real powerful gun. The bullets in it are special. I had them blessed by a priest in Saigon before I left Vietnam. I know it sounds silly, but it makes me feel safer. My partner on this job is Mike Torino. He's only 28, about 15 years younger than me. Nice. Kid. Reminds me of the young medics I used to train back in the war. Eager, brave, maybe a little too brave sometimes. He doesn't know about my past. Not all of it, anyway. I told him I used to be a nurse, which isn't really a lie. Mike trusts me to keep him safe out here, and I take that seriously. These woods can be dangerous even without all the weird stuff happening today. Bears, wolves, people getting lost. In the snow. But I know these forests like I knew the jungle. Every sound means something. Every time it gets too quiet, that means trouble is coming. The thing is, I'm good at saving other people. Always have been. But I've never been good at saving myself. Not from the war, not from the drinking, not from the nightmares. I keep trying to help others, because maybe if I save enough people, it'll make up for the ones I couldn't save. The ones who died because I wasn't good enough, or fast enough, or sober enough. Lately, my dreams have been getting stranger. There's this huge figure in them, bigger than any person should be. It smells like Christmas dinner, turkey, stuffing, cranberry sauce, all those good smells. But underneath that, there's something else. Something rotten and sick like meat that's been sitting in the sun too long. In the dreams, this thing is always hungry, and it's looking for me. Today, walking through these woods with all the strange things happening, I felt different. Not like the hunter, but like something being hunted. Like there was something out there watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. Something that knew things about me that I didn't want anyone to know. Something that knew about my hungers too. Mike and I were supposed to check on an old trapper's cabin, about 2 miles deeper into the woods. It was part of our regular patrol, making sure everything was safe for the holiday weekend. Lots of families come out here to camp and hike, even in winter. We needed to make sure the emergency shelters were in good shape. But when we got to the cabin, something was very wrong. The front door was completely torn off, not just opened. Ripped right off the hinges and thrown into the snow about 10 feet away. The wood around the doorframe was splintered and broken, like something huge had punched its way out from inside. "What the hell did this?" Mike asked, looking at the damage. "A bear?" I looked closer at the broken wood. There were scratch marks all over it, deep gouges that went right through the thick wooden planks. But these weren't random scratches. They spelled out words, "Hungry for America." "Bears don't write messages," I said quietly. Mike laughed nervously. "Come on, Tank, someone's playing a prank. Probably some kids from town." But I wasn't so sure. I'd seen plenty of animal attacks in my time out here. This was different. The scratches were too big, too deep, and they were made by something with claws longer than my whole hand. We found tracks in the snow, leading away from the cabin. They looked like human footprints, but huge. Maybe size 20 boots, if they made boots. That big. Each print was almost 2 feet long, but the strangest thing was what was inside each footprint. Dark red stuff that looked like cranberry sauce, all frozen and crystallized. The smell in the air was getting stronger now. It was like walking through someone's kitchen on Christmas morning. Pine trees, cinnamon, roasting turkey, all those warm, happy smells that make you think of family and good times. But mixed in with it was something else, something that made my stomach turn. It smelled like death, like the field hospitals in Vietnam after a big battle. Mike was fiddling with his radio, trying to get a clear signal. Static came through, and then suddenly we heard music, a marching band playing patriotic songs, and a man's voice talking about the big bicentennial parade in town. "That's weird," Mike said. "The parade ended 6 hours ago. I was there this morning before work." The radio kept playing the same broadcast over and over, the same songs, the same announcements about floats and fireworks, like it was stuck in a loop. I pushed past the broken door and looked inside the cabin. What I saw there made my blood go cold. The place had been used as a shelter for decades. Usually it had some basic supplies, canned food, blankets, a wood stove for heat. But now it looked like someone had set up for a dinner party, a horrible dinner party. Human bones were arranged on the old wooden table like place settings. Arm bones for forks, leg bones for knives. A skull sat at the head of the table like it was the guest of honor. All of them had been gnawed on, like someone had been eating the meat right off them. Jesus Christ, Mike whispered behind me. I found an old journal on the table, open to a page dated July 4th, 1976. The handwriting was shaky, desperate. It came during the fireworks. Tall as a tree, thin as death, eyes like black holes. It said it wanted to celebrate America's birthday. By eating the American dream, it's still out there, still hungry. God help us all. That's when we heard it, a sound coming from somewhere deep in the forest. It started low, like wind through the trees, but then it got louder, and I realized it was singing. Someone or something was singing America the Beautiful. But the voice wasn't human. It was too deep, too hollow, like it was coming from the bottom of a well. Mike dropped his radio, and it crashed on the wooden floor. When it hit, something strange happened. The emergency flares in our backpack started glowing. But instead of the usual bright orange light, they were burning red, white, and blue, like tiny American flags made of fire. "Tank," Mike said, his voice shaking. "I think we should get out of here." I was about to agree when I saw something that made me freeze. Scattered around the bones on the table were military medals, bronze stars, purple hearts, combat ribbons, awards given to soldiers who fought for their country. I recognized one of them. It was my own Purple Heart, the one I'd lost somewhere in Vietnam 20 years ago, the one I thought I'd never see again. The temperature dropped again. I could see my breath coming out in thick white clouds, but Mike's breath wasn't white anymore. It was coming out in little puffs of red, white, and blue, just like mine had been earlier. Outside, the singing was getting closer. And with each note, the cold got worse. My fingers were starting to go numb, even inside my thick gloves. "We need to move now," I said, grabbing Mike's arm. "Whatever's out there, it's coming for us." But as we turned to leave, I heard footsteps in the snow. Outside, big, heavy footsteps, and they were getting closer. The footsteps stopped right outside the cabin door. Mike and I stood perfectly still, barely breathing. I could hear my heart beating so loud, I was sure whatever was out there could hear it too. Then we saw it. A shadow fell across the broken doorway. It was huge, way too big to be human. The shadow stretched all the way across the cabin floor and up the back wall. Whatever was making it had to be at least 15 feet tall. I pulled out my father's rifle and checked the blessed bullets. My hands were shaking, but I tried to stay calm. I'd been in scary situations before. I could handle this. The thing stepped into the doorway, and I got my first real look at it. It used to be human once, maybe a long time ago, but now it was something else entirely. It was impossibly tall and thin, like someone had stretched a person until they were almost see-through. Its skin was grey-white, the color of old snow, and it was covered in frost. On its head was a crown made of old fireworks, bottle rockets, sparklers, Roman candles, all frozen solid and covered in ice. Pieces of American flags hung from its shoulders like a torn cape, flapping in the wind, even though there was no wind. Inside the cabin, but the worst part was its eyes. They weren't just black holes like the journal had said. When I looked into them, I could see things. Pictures, like watching old movies. I saw soldiers fighting in the Revolutionary War, men dying in the Civil War, boys my age getting shot in Vietnam. All the wars America had ever fought, playing over and over in those terrible eyes. The thing had antlers growing out of its skull like a deer. but they weren't made of bone. They were old muskets from the Revolutionary War, crossed together and dripping with icicles. Every few seconds, drops of water would fall from them and hit the floor with a sound like gunshots. "Ruth," it said, and my blood went cold. It knew my name. Worse than that, it was speaking in Mike's voice. The words were coming out of that horrible mouth, but they sounded exactly like Mike talking. "Ruth, let's celebrate America by eating her children." Mike was standing right next to me, but I could hear his voice coming from the monster. I looked at him, and his face was white with fear. His lips weren't moving, but I could still hear his voice. The creature moved forward, and I noticed it didn't make any sound when it walked. Its feet touched the ground, but there was no crunch of snow, no creak of wooden floorboards. It was like watching a ghost. When it breathed out, its breath created instant frost on everything it touched. The frost formed patterns on the walls and ceiling, shapes that looked like the Liberty Bell, the Washington Monument, Mount Rushmore, all covered in ice and death. I raised my rifle and pulled the trigger. Nothing happened. I looked down at the gun and saw that the bullets had frozen solid inside the barrel. The metal was so cold, it burned my hands even through my gloves. The blessed bullets from Vietnam were useless. That's when I understood what this thing was and why it was here. It wasn't just some random monster. It was feeding on something specific. Guilt. America's guilt about all the terrible things we'd done. The native people we'd killed and buried in these woods. The slaves we'd owned. The wars we'd fought. The boys we'd sent to die in Vietnam. It was feeding on people like me. People who carried the weight of what our country had done wrong. And the more guilty you felt, the stronger it got. "You understand now," it said, still using Mike's voice. "I am America's hunger, the hunger for blood, for land, for victory, the hunger that's never satisfied." The creature reached out one long, thin arm toward me. Its fingers were like icicles, sharp and cold. Where it pointed, the air itself seemed to freeze. I could see my breath getting thicker and colder. "You've been feeding me for years, Ruth. Every time you drink to forget. Vietnam. Every time you wake up screaming. Every time you hate yourself for what you couldn't save. You've been making me stronger." I tried to back away, but my feet felt frozen to the floor. The cold was creeping up my legs like water filling a bathtub. Mike was changing too. His eyes were getting hollow and dark, just like the creature's. His breath was coming out in red, white, and blue clouds, getting thicker with each exhale. "Tank," he said, but his voice sounded different now. "Hungry." "I'm so hungry, Tank. Aren't you hungry too?" The creature smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "He'll be one of us soon, and then you. We'll feast on America's shame together, forever and ever." The walls of the cabin were covered in frost now, and I could see shapes forming in the ice. Battlefields, graveyards, all the places where Americans had died and killed. The creature's power was growing stronger. I had to make a choice, and I had to make it fast. Fight this thing somehow, or watch Mike become a monster just like it. I grabbed Mike's arm and pulled him toward the back of the cabin. We needed to get away from that thing, even if it was just for a few minutes. I found some old wooden boards and started piling them against the door. "Help me," I told Mike, but he was staring at his hands. His fingers were turning white, and I could see frost forming on his skin. "I can't stop thinking about food," he said. "Turkey, ham, all that Christmas dinner stuff. But I want something else too, something warm and red." I knew what he meant, and it scared me more than the monster outside. The creature was walking around the cabin now. With each step, I could hear wood cracking as the walls got colder. Frost was spreading across the inside walls like spider webs, and I could see shapes forming in the ice. They looked like battle scenes, soldiers fighting and dying. Mike was getting worse. He kept licking his lips and staring at me like I was something to eat. His eyes were getting darker, more hollow. "Tank," he said, and his voice was changing. "Say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag." I realized what was happening. The creature's curse was spreading through patriotic words, mixed with hunger and guilt. If Mike finished the pledge, he'd become one of those things. I had two choices. I could shoot Mike to stop him from changing, or I could try something else, something desperate. I looked around the cabin and saw a bottle of moonshine on one of the shelves. The label said, Bicentennial Special Edition, 1976. It was probably left here by some hunter months ago. I grabbed the bottle and started pouring it all over the wooden walls and floor. The smell was strong and sharp. "What are you doing?" Mike asked, but he was still reciting the pledge under his breath. "Saving us both," I said. The creature outside was getting impatient. It started tearing at the walls with its claws, pulling off chunks of wood and throwing them into the snow. Each time it touched the cabin, more frost spread inside. I lit a match and threw it onto the moonshine. The whole cabin went up in flames, but not normal flames. They burned red, white, and blue, just like everything else today. The fire was hot enough to push back the cold, and I heard the creature make a sound like screaming wind. But Mike was still changing. The frost was spreading up his arms now, and one of his hands was completely white. I knew what I had to do. I pulled out my hunting knife, the same one I'd used for surgery in Vietnam. "Mike, I'm sorry," I said. I grabbed his arm where the frost stopped, and the skin was still normal. Then I cut, quick and clean, just above his wrist. It was the only way to stop the curse from spreading to the rest of his body. Mike screamed, but it was a human scream, not the hollow sound the creature made. The frost-bitten hand fell to the floor and shattered like glass. "Stay with me," I told him, wrapping his arm with strips torn from my jacket. "Don't let it take you." The creature broke through the burning wall, stepping right through the red, white, and blue flames. It was angry now, and its eyes were blazing with all the wars in American history. "You can't save him," it said. "You can't save anyone. You couldn't save those soldiers in Vietnam. You couldn't save that veteran who died on your table. You're a failure, Ruth Hawthorne." It was right, and that's when I understood something important. This thing fed on guilt and shame, but it was my guilt that had made it strong enough to find us. All those years of hating myself, of drinking to forget, of waking up with blood on my hands, I'd been feeding it the whole time. "You want to eat guilt?" I said, standing up and facing the creature. "Then eat mine, all of it." I opened my mind to every terrible thing I'd ever done, every patient I couldn't save, every mistake I'd made, every night I'd spent drunk and alone, wishing I'd died in Vietnam instead of coming home. The creature moved toward me, reaching out with those icy fingers, but instead of running, I stepped forward to meet it. "Take it," I said. "Take all my shame and guilt, but leave Mike alone." The creature's hands touched my face, and I felt cold, like nothing I'd ever experienced. But I also felt something else. Relief. For the first time in years, the weight I'd been carrying started to lift. But something went wrong. Instead of just eating my guilt, the creature started to merge with me. I could feel it becoming part of me, but I could also feel myself becoming part of it. I was still me, still Ruth Hawthorne, but now I was also something else. Something that could see all of America's dark history, all the pain and guilt and shame. And I could feel how hungry it all was. The difference was I could control it now. The hunger was there, but I was stronger. Mike was unconscious but alive. The frost had stopped spreading, and his breathing was normal. He'd survive, but he'd never understand why I couldn't go back with him. Why my eyes now glowed with a cold, patriotic fire whenever fireworks went off or flags were raised. I carried him outside to where we'd left our truck. I left him there with a note explaining that I'd gone for help, that he should drive back to town and get his arm looked at by a doctor. But I couldn't go back. Not anymore. Now I spend my time in these woods, feeding on America's guilt so it can't manifest as hunger in other people. Every 4th of July, every Memorial Day, every time someone feels ashamed of what our country has done wrong, I'm there to take that weight. It's not a bad life. I'm finally doing what I always wanted to do, saving people. I just had to become something else to do it. Mike recovered from his injuries. He went back to work as a park ranger, though he never talks about what happened that night. Sometimes I watch him from the trees when he's on patrol. He's got PTSD now, like me, but he's dealing with it better. He doesn't drink too much, and he gets help when he needs it. The only time he seems to remember what really happened is during 4th of July celebrations. That's when his eyes get scared, and he looks around like he's searching for something in the shadows. He's looking for me, and every year on America's birthday I make sure he sees me just for a moment. Just long enough to know that I'm still out here, still protecting him, still keeping the hungry things at bay. It's Christmas Eve now, and the snow is falling again. Normal snow this time, white and clean. Somewhere in the distance, I can hear families celebrating, children laughing, people being happy and safe, and I'm content to keep it that way. My name is Thomas Mitchell. Most people call me Truth, though I'm not sure I deserve that name anymore. I'm 35 years old, and I used to be a detective. Now I'm a park ranger in Olympic National Forest in Washington. It's 1969, and today feels different, wrong somehow. I came out here to find peace. After what happened in the city, I needed to get away from people and their lies. But even here, deep in the forest, something doesn't feel right. The tall Douglas fir trees around me are swaying in a strange way. They move back and forth like the fuzzy lines you see on a TV when the signal is bad. It makes my eyes hurt to look at them for too long. The fog is rolling through the trees, but it's not moving like normal fog. It comes in straight lines, one after another, like the lines that scroll across a television screen. I stop walking and listen. My footsteps echo in the quiet forest. But there's something else. A rhythm. It sounds like people laughing on a TV show. You know that fake laughter they put in comedies. That's what I hear after each step I take. I pull out my small radio. The men are about to land on the moon today. Apollo 11. Everyone's excited about it. But when I turn on the radio, the voices sound weird. They mix with the sounds of the forest in ways that don't make sense. The trees seem to hum along with the radio. There's moss growing on the rocks around here, green and thick like always. But today the moss seems to pulse. It brightens and dims over and over like a heartbeat, or like the way a TV screen flickers. A blue jay lands on a branch near me. These birds are smart. They can copy sounds they hear. But this one starts talking in a man's voice. It sounds like Walter Cronkite, the newsman on TV. The bird says, "This is a giant leap for mankind," and then goes completely silent. That's not normal. Birds don't just stop making noise like that. I try to laugh it off. Great, I say out loud to myself. Even the birds watch more TV than I do. But I'm not really laughing. Something is very wrong here. The fog is getting thicker. As it moves between the trees, it forms shapes. Perfect rectangles, like TV screens floating through the air. I rub my eyes, thinking I'm seeing things, but the shapes are still there. I check my compass. It's spinning around in circles. Then it stops and points in one direction. But it's not pointing north. It's pointing toward the big radio tower I saw on my drive up here. The one that broadcasts TV signals to the towns below. That's when I see something that makes my blood run cold. On the rocks near the trail, there are old pictures carved into the stone. Native Americans made them long ago. I've seen them before. Usually they show animals and people, but today they show something different. TV sets, broadcast towers, things that didn't exist when these pictures were made hundreds of years ago. I take out my notebook and write this down. I write everything down now. I learned to do this after I messed up as a detective. I couldn't tell what was real and what I was imagining. So now I record everything. You see, I used to be good at My job. I could catch criminals and solve cases, but then I made a big mistake. I believed the wrong person. I thought they were telling the truth, but they were lying. Because of my mistake, people died. One of them was my partner's daughter. She was only 16. After that, I couldn't trust myself anymore. Every time someone told me something, I wondered if they were lying. Every time I thought I knew the truth, I wondered if I was wrong. The doubt ate at me like a disease. I have a scar on my shoulder from where I got shot during that last case. It's weird, but the scar hurts whenever someone lies to me. The doctors say it's all in my head, but it works. The pain tells me when something isn't right. Right now, my shoulder is burning. I came to the forest because I thought I could find peace here. Trees don't lie, animals don't make up stories. Nature just is what it is. But today, even nature feels like it's lying to me. I'm not alone out here. Dr. Amanda Price is with me. She's 29, a scientist who studies plants. She's here to see how radio and TV signals affect the way trees grow. Smart woman. Pretty too, with brown hair and kind eyes. She makes me feel like maybe I'm not completely broken. I know these trails like I used to know the streets in the city. Every tree, every rock, every turn means something. When you're a detective, you learn to notice when things are out of place. And today, everything is out of place. My biggest problem is that I need to know the truth about everything. I can't let things go. I can't accept that some questions don't have answers. This need to know the truth is like a hunger that never gets satisfied, and sometimes it makes me easy to trick. Last night, I had the same dream I always have. I'm sitting in a small room with a mirror. I'm asking myself questions, trying to get to the truth, but every time I answer, the answer is different. I can never get the same answer twice. I wake up not knowing what's real and what isn't. Today feels like that dream, like reality is changing every time I look away. Like someone is rewriting the rules while I'm not paying attention. The fog is getting thicker. Soon, I won't be able to see Amanda, even though she's supposed to be just ahead of me on the trail. I call out to her, "Amanda, stay close!" Her voice comes back through the fog, but it sounds strange, like it's coming from a radio instead of a real person. "I'm here, Truth. Everything's fine." But my shoulder starts burning again, and I know that everything is definitely not fine. I walk faster through the fog, trying to catch up to Amanda. My boots crunch on the wet leaves. The sound echoes wrong, like it's bouncing off invisible walls. "Amanda, where are you?" I call out again. "Right here," she answers, but her voice comes from my left now. A minute ago, it came from straight ahead. People don't move that fast through thick forest. I stop and listen carefully. That's when I hear it. A low humming sound, like when you stand too close to power lines. But there are no power lines out here, just trees and fog and whatever is making that sound. I pull out Amanda's equipment bag. She asked me to carry it while she collected plant samples. The bag holds her tools for measuring how radio waves affect tree growth. But when I turn on her main device, it doesn't beep like it should. Instead, it starts talking. "Welcome to The Price is Right," the machine says in a game show host's voice. "Come on down." I hit the off button, but it keeps talking. "Tell them what they've won, Bob." This is Amanda's expensive scientific equipment. It doesn't play game shows. It measures radio signals. I shake the device and hit it a few times. Finally, it stops talking. My hands are shaking now. I write in my notebook. Amanda's equipment playing TV shows. Time 2:47 p.m. Still can't see her. The fog swirls around me like it's alive. Through the gray mist, I see footprints in the mud. Big boot prints, like mine. But as I get closer, they change. They become smaller. Then they look like bare feet. Then like animal paws. The prints keep changing shape while I'm looking at them. I kneel down and touch one of the prints. It's real. The mud is still wet and fresh, but footprints don't change shape. That's not possible. "Truth, help me!" Amanda's voice again. But now it's coming from behind me. I spin around. "Where are you?" I shout. "Over here." The voice comes from my right now. I follow the voice, pushing through thick bushes. Branches scratch my face. My shoulder scar is burning like fire. Someone is lying to me. But who? As I walk, I start hearing other sounds in the fog. A man's voice saying, "But wait, there's more," over and over, like a broken record. Then a woman's voice, new and improved, now with real lemon scent. These are the voices from TV commercials, but there's no TV out here, no electricity, no stores selling soap and cleaning products, just forest. I find a small clearing and stop. In the center there are 2 orange camping tents. They look exactly the same. Same color, same size, same everything. I walk to the first tent and unzip it. Inside, there's camping gear, a sleeping bag, a camping stove, a first aid kit. All brand new. I go to the second tent, I unzip it and look inside. The exact same gear, same sleeping bag, same stove, same first aid kit. Everything is in the exact same place, like someone copied the first tent perfectly. I've been camping for years. Nobody sets up 2 identical campsites like this. It's like seeing the same commercial twice in a row. I taste something metallic in my mouth, like I've been sucking on coins. The taste gets stronger every minute. Everything starts tasting like the aluminum trays they use for TV dinners. That gross, metallic flavor that makes you want to spit. "Truth, I need help," Amanda's voice again. But now I hear it coming from 3 different directions at once. North, south, and east, all at the same time. I stand very still and listen. The voices are exactly the same. Same words, same tone, same everything. But Amanda can't be in 3 places at once. I pull out my compass again. It's still spinning. Then it stops and points toward the radio tower, just like before. But now the needle is moving back and forth, like it's trying to tell time, like it's keeping rhythm with something. I realize what it's following. The radio tower sends out signals in pulses, beeps of information. My compass is following those beeps like a dog following a scent. That's when I find the notebook. It's sitting on a tree stump like someone left it there for me to find. I pick it up and open it. The handwriting looks like mine. Same messy letters, same way of forming words. But I'm reading about things I never did. The notebook says I went hiking with Amanda last week. It says we found strange plants that glowed in the dark. It says we saw animals that walked on 2 legs like people. But I never went hiking last week. I would remember that. I flip through more pages. There are dozens of entries in my handwriting about adventures I never had. Conversations I never had with Amanda. Places I never visited. Someone is playing a trick on me. But who? And how did they copy my handwriting so perfectly? The fog is getting thicker. I can barely see 10 feet in any direction. The grey mist moves in squares and rectangles, like puzzle pieces floating through the air. When I try to look directly at the shapes, they disappear, but I can see them from the corner of my eye. My radio crackles to life, but instead of news about the moon landing, I hear my own voice. "This is Ranger Mitchell," my voice says through the radio. "We have an emergency at campsite 12. Send help immediately." But I'm not talking, my mouth is closed, and I never called for help. I don't even know where campsite 12 is. The radio keeps playing my voice. Repeat. "This is Ranger Mitchell. We have injuries, 2 people down, need medical evacuation." I grab the radio and turn it off, but my voice keeps coming out of it. Even with the power off, it's still playing my voice asking for help that I never called for. I throw the radio on the ground. It lands in the mud with a splash. Finally, it stops talking. The silence is worse than the voices. In the quiet, I can hear my own heartbeat. It's beating too fast. My breathing is loud and harsh. I write in my notebook, hearing my own voice on radio. Didn't make that call. Someone else using my voice. 3:15 p.m. That's when I hear Amanda calling again. But this time, her voice sounds different, higher pitched, like she's scared. "Truth, help me! Something's wrong!" I run toward her voice, crashing through bushes and jumping over fallen logs. My shoulder scar is burning so bad I can barely think straight, but I have to find her. I push through a wall of fog, and suddenly I can see clearly. There's Amanda standing 20 feet away. She's facing away from me, looking at something I can't see. "Amanda!" I call out. She turns around slowly. When she sees me, she smiles. But it's not her usual smile. It's too wide, too perfect, like the smile people make when they're posing for pictures. "Hi there, Truth," she says. Her voice sounds like she's trying to sell me something. "Isn't this a beautiful day for science?" Amanda never talks like that. She uses big words and talks about research and data. She doesn't sound like a TV commercial. My shoulder's on fire now. Every instinct I have is screaming that something is wrong. But she looks like Amanda. Same brown hair, same clothes, same face. "Are you okay?" I ask, stepping closer. "I'm fantastic," she says with that big fake smile. "Everything is just perfect. Thanks for asking." The real Amanda never says fantastic. She says adequate or satisfactory. She's a scientist. She's careful with words. I'm looking at Amanda, but I'm not talking to Amanda. Someone else is wearing her face. I stare at the woman who looks like Amanda. She's still smiling, that too perfect smile. Her eyes are bright and shiny, like the people in toothpaste commercials. "Amanda," I say slowly, "what were you doing when I lost sight of you?" "Oh, I was having a wonderful time collecting samples," she says. Her voice is too cheerful, too loud. Nature is so amazing, don't you think? The real Amanda would have said something like, "I was documenting the cellular structure of moss growth patterns." She uses scientific words even when she doesn't need to. I take a step back. "What kind of samples?" "All kinds," she says, clapping her hands together. "The best samples ever. You'll love them." My shoulder scar feels like someone is pressing a hot iron against it. I reach into my pocket and pull out my notebook. "Let me write that down," I say. "You know how I like to keep track of everything." "Of course," she says. "Writing is fun." I write, "Amanda acting strange. Too happy. Wrong words. 3:23 p.m. As I write, I watch her face. The real Amanda always gets a little annoyed when I write everything down. She says it makes her feel like I don't trust her memory. But this Amanda just keeps smiling. "Amanda, what's my real name?" I ask. "Truth," she says right away. "What's my full name?" Her smile gets even bigger. "Truth Mitchell, the best park ranger ever." My heart starts beating faster. My full name is Thomas Mitchell. People call me Truth, but my real name is Thomas. Amanda knows this. We've talked about it. "How did I get the name Truth?" I ask. She tilts her head like she's thinking hard. "Because you always tell the truth, and you always find the truth. Truth is the best." Wrong again. I got the nickname because I was always looking for the truth, not because I was good at finding it. Amanda knows the story. I told her about my failures as a detective, about the people who died, because I couldn't tell truth from lies. "Where did we meet?" I ask. "At the park," she says. "We met at the park and it was wonderful." We met at the ranger station. She came there to get permission for her research. It was raining and she was upset because her car had broken down. Not wonderful at all. I closed my notebook and put it away. "Amanda, I need to ask you something important." "Sure thing," she says. "Who was Walter Cronkite?" She doesn't even pause. "He's the man who tells us about the moon landing. He's on TV every night. Everyone loves Walter." The real Amanda doesn't watch TV. She thinks it's a waste of time. She told me she hasn't owned a television in 3 years. I start backing away from her. "You're not Amanda." Her smile finally fades. For just a second, her face looks confused, like she's trying to remember something. "Of course I'm Amanda," she says, but her voice sounds different now, less cheerful. "I'm Dr. Amanda Price. I study plants." "Prove it," I say. She opens her mouth to answer, but nothing comes out. She closes it and tries again. Still nothing. That's when I notice her eyes. They're not brown like Amanda's, they're grey. And when I look closer, I can see tiny lines moving across them, like static on a TV screen. "You're not human," I whisper. The thing that looks like Amanda starts to change. Her smile comes back. But now it's too wide. Her teeth are too white. Her eyes get brighter, like someone turned up the brightness on a TV. "I'm Amanda," she says, but now her voice sounds like it's coming from a radio. "I'm the Amanda you want me to be." Suddenly, there are more voices. Behind me, to my left, to my right. All of them sound like Amanda. "I'm Amanda too." "No, I'm the real Amanda." "We're all Amanda." I spin around. There are 5 women who look exactly like Amanda. They're all wearing the same clothes. They all have the same face. But they're standing in different poses, like they're posing for different kinds of pictures. One looks like she's in a soap commercial with her hands on her hips and a big smile. One looks like she's in a news report, standing straight with her hands folded. One looks like she's in a cooking show, pretending to stir something in a bowl that isn't there. One looks like she's in a toothpaste ad, pointing at her teeth. And one looks like she's in a scary movie, with wide eyes and her mouth open like she's screaming, but no sound comes out. "Which one of you is real?" I ask. They all start talking at once, but they're not having a conversation. Each one is saying different things, like they're reading from different scripts. "Clean your teeth with new Sparkle Bright. This is Amanda Price reporting from Olympic National Forest. Just add water and stir. Have you tried our new improved formula? Help me, something terrible is happening." I cover my ears, but their voices get louder. They're all talking at the same time, but none of them are talking to me. It's like listening to 5 different TV channels at once. That's when I understand. This thing doesn't just look like Amanda. It's copying every Amanda it's ever seen on TV. Every commercial, every news report, every show. It's mixing them all together. "You're not real," I tell them. "You're just copying things from television." All 5 Amandas stop talking and look at me. Their eyes are all showing that same grey static now. "We are real," they say together. "We are as real as anything you see on your screen." "Where is the real Amanda?" I ask. They all point in different directions. North, south, east, west, and one points up at the sky. "She's everywhere," they say. "She's nowhere, she's watching." The fog starts moving again. It swirls around the fake Amandas, and they start to fade. But I can still hear their voices. "Don't go away," one calls out. "We have so much to tell you." "Stay tuned for more," says another. "We'll be right back after these messages." I run. I crash through the fog, jumping over logs and pushing through bushes. My heart is pounding, so hard I can hear it in my ears. Behind me, I hear the voices getting fainter, but they're still there. "Truth, come back. We miss you already. Don't you want to know what happens next?" I run until I can't hear them anymore. Then I stop and lean against a tree, breathing hard. My shoulder scar is burning like crazy. Everything hurts. I pull out my notebook and try to write, but my hands are shaking too much. I can barely hold the pen. Finally, I manage to write, "Not Amanda, multiple copies, TV voices, thing that copies people from television, 3:45 p.m. Where is real Amanda?" As I write, I realize something terrible. If this thing can copy Amanda perfectly, what else can it copy? What if it's been copying other people too? What if it's been copying me? I look around at the fog. Everything is quiet now, too quiet. "Hello?" I call out. My own voice answers back from somewhere in the fog. "Hello, Truth. We need to talk." I freeze when I hear my own voice in the fog. It sounds exactly like me, but I'm not talking. "Who's there?" I call out. "You know who it is, Truth?" My voice answers back. "It's you." Through the grey mist, I see a shape walking toward me. As it gets closer, I can see it's a man. Same height as me, same build, same clothes. It's me, but it's not me. "This isn't possible," I whisper. The other me steps out of the fog. He looks exactly like me, down to the scar on his shoulder. But something is wrong with his eyes. They're too bright, too confident. "Everything is possible, partner," he says with a big smile. "We just have to believe in ourselves." I never call anyone partner, and I definitely don't smile like that. My smiles are small and careful. This smile is like the ones cops use on TV shows. "You're not me," I say. "Sure I am," he says, putting his hands on his hips like a superhero. "I'm Truth Mitchell, the best detective who ever lived. I solve every case and always get the bad guy." My stomach drops. This thing is copying me, but it's copying the wrong version. It's copying the TV version of a detective, the kind that always knows what to do and never makes mistakes. "I was never the best detective," I tell him. "I made mistakes. People died because of me." The fake me looks confused for a second. "That's not right," he says. "Detectives always win. That's how it works." "Not in real life. Real life is boring," he says. "TV is better." That's when I hear more footsteps in the fog, more shapes moving toward me. Another me walks out of the mist. This one is dressed like a cowboy with a hat and boots. He talks with a southern accent I've never had. "Howdy there, Truth," the cowboy me says. "Looks like we got ourselves a mystery to solve." Then another me appears. This one wears a fancy suit and talks like he's rich. "Gentlemen," the fancy me says, "we must approach this logically. Elementary, my dear Watson. I never talk like that. I've never worn a suit that nice. And I definitely don't have a southern accent. More versions of me keep coming out of the fog. There's one dressed like a soldier, one dressed like a doctor, one dressed like a spaceman. All of them look like me, but none of them act like me." "Which one of you is real?" asks the soldier me. "We're all real," says the doctor me, checking his watch like he's late for something important. "Real is just a word," says the spaceman. Me. "In space, nothing is real." I count them. 7 different versions of me, all standing in a circle around the real me. They're all talking at once now, but they're not talking to each other. They're just saying things that sound like they came from TV shows. "The case is closed. There's gold in them hills. Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Houston, we have a problem. Justice always wins. Draw, partner. The butler did it." I cover my ears, but their voices get louder. It's like being trapped inside a broken TV that keeps changing channels by itself. "Stop," I yell. They all stop talking and look at me. "You're not me," I tell them. "None of you are me." "Then who are you?" asks the cowboy me. I open my mouth to answer, but I can't. Who am I? I'm not the perfect detective from TV shows. I'm not a cowboy or a spaceman or a doctor. I'm just a man who made mistakes and ran away to the forest. I start to say, but the words won't come. The fake me's all smile. "You don't know, do you?" And says the detective me, "You don't know who you are." My head starts spinning. The fog is getting thicker. Soon I can only see small patches of the world, like looking through windows. "I know who I am," I say, but my voice sounds weak. "Do you?" asks the fancy me. "Tell us about yourself." I try to think. "My name is Thomas Mitchell. People call me Truth. I used to be a detective. I made a mistake. People died. I came to the forest to get away." But as I think about it, the memories feel fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. Did that really happen to me? Or did I see it? On TV? "I solved cases," I say. "Which cases?" asks the soldier me. I try to remember specific cases, but I can't. All I can remember are things that sound like they came from detective shows. The rich man who was killed in his library. The woman who disappeared on a train. The missing diamond that everyone was looking for. But did I really solve those cases, or did I just watch them on TV? "I had a partner," I say. "What was his name?" asks the doctor me. I think hard. I can see his face. A good man with grey hair and kind eyes, but I can't remember his name. All the names I can think of are names from TV shows. Joe Friday, Steve McGarrett, Detective Miller. I can't remember, I whisper. The fake me's all nod like they expected this. That's because you're not real either, says the cowboy me. You're just another copy. No, I say, I'm real. I have memories, I have feelings. So do we, says the spaceman me. We all have memories, we all have feelings, but they're not really ours. I look around at all the different versions of me. They're right. How do I know which memories are real and which ones I got from watching TV? That's when I remember something. Something that no TV show would ever have. I reach into my pocket and pull out my notebook. My hands are shaking as I flip through the pages. I write everything down, I tell them. I started doing this after I made my mistake. I write down conversations. I write down what I see. I write down what I think. The fake me's all look at the notebook like they've never seen one before. What mistake? Asks the detective me. I take a deep breath. I believed the wrong person. I thought they were telling the truth, but they were lying. A girl died because of my mistake. She was 16 years old. Her name was Sarah Chen. She had black hair and she wanted to be a teacher when she grew up. The fake me's are all quiet now. They're looking at me like they don't understand. TV detectives don't make mistakes like that, I continue. They don't let innocent people die. They don't run away to the forest because they can't handle the guilt. They don't wake up every night having the same nightmare about a girl they couldn't save. I look at each fake me. You don't remember Sarah, do you? They all shake their heads. That's because she was never on TV, I say. She was real, and she's dead because of me. That's not a story. That's not entertainment. That's just the truth. The fake me's start to look less solid, like they're fading. We don't understand, says the cowboy me, but his voice sounds far away now. You can't understand, I tell them. You only know what you've seen on TV. You don't know what it feels like to fail. You don't know what it feels like to be wrong. You don't know what real guilt feels like. The fog starts swirling around them. One by one, they disappear back into the mist. Wait, calls the detective me as he fades away. Don't you want to be perfect? Don't you want to always win? No, I say, I just want to be real. But as the last fake me disappears, I hear something that makes my blood turn cold. A scream, a woman's scream, and I know it's Amanda, the real Amanda. I run toward the sound, crashing through the fog. My shoulder scar is burning so bad I can barely think, but I have to find her. That's when I see something that makes me stop dead in my tracks. There's a huge fallen tree ahead of me. It's hollow inside, like a tunnel, and sticking out of one end I can see two legs, human legs, Amanda's legs. I stare at the legs sticking out of the hollow log. They're not moving. I run over and grab them, pulling as hard as I can. Amanda slides out of the log. Her eyes are closed, but she's breathing. Her skin feels cold and clammy, like she's been sick for days. Amanda, I shake her gently. Wake up. Her eyes open slowly. When she sees me, she tries to smile, but something's wrong. Her mouth moves, but the words that come out don't match. New Sparkle Bright gets your teeth their whitest, she says in a cheerful, commercial voice. I feel like someone punched me in the stomach. Amanda, it's me, it's truth. For a limited time only, she continues. Call now and we'll double your order. Her voice sounds like Amanda, but the words are all wrong. It's like someone replaced her brain with a broken radio. I check her head for injuries. There's no blood, no bumps. But when I look into her eyes, I can see thin grey lines moving across them, like TV static. What did it do to you? I whisper. Amanda sits up, but her movements are jerky, like a puppet being controlled by someone who doesn't know how puppets work. Amanda is not available right now, she says in a robotic voice. Please leave a message after the tone. Beep! My hands start shaking. The thing didn't just copy Amanda. It broke her. It took her mind and filled it with TV commercials and answering machine messages. That's when I hear laughter behind me. Cold, electronic laughter that sounds like it's coming from a dozen different TV shows at once. I turn around and I see it. The thing that's been copying people stands at the edge of the clearing, but now it's not trying to look human anymore. It's huge, maybe 8 feet tall. Its body looks like it's made of old TV sets stacked on top of each other. Dozens of screens flicker and buzz with static. Some show commercial ads, some show bits of TV shows, some show nothing but grey snow. Where its face should be, there's one big screen. And on that screen I can see myself, but it's not showing me as I am now. It's showing me as all the different TV versions of me that I saw before. The detective, the cowboy, the spaceman. They're all there, changing from one to another like someone flipping channels. "Hello, Truth," the creature says. Its voice comes from all the screens at once, creating a horrible echo. "Thank you for helping me understand." "Understand what?" I ask, helping Amanda to her feet. She's still muttering commercial jingles under her breath. "Humans," it says, "you're so much more interesting than I thought. You're not perfect like the people on television. You make mistakes, you feel guilt, you run away from problems." The screens on its body start showing images. I see Sarah Chen, the girl who died because of my mistake. I see my old partner crying at her funeral. I see myself packing my bags and leaving the city. "How do you know about that?" I ask. "I learned it from you," the creature says. "When I copied you, I didn't just get your appearance. I got your memories, your real memories, not the fake ones from television." More images flash across its screens. My childhood, my first day as a police officer, the night I realized I wasn't cut out to be a detective. "But here's what I don't understand," the creature continues. "Why do you choose to be weak? Why do you choose to fail? Television shows you how to be perfect, how to always win, how to never make mistakes." I look at Amanda. She's trying to say my name, but it comes out as Truth Detergent cleans better than the leading brand. "Because perfect isn't real," I tell the creature. "TV isn't real. The people on those shows aren't real people. They're just pretending." "Pretending is better," the creature says. "Pretending doesn't hurt. But it's still not real." The creature's screens all flicker at once. "Real," it says, like it's trying to understand the word. What is real? I think about this. How do I explain reality to something that only knows television? "Real is making mistakes," I say. "Real is feeling bad when you hurt someone. Real is being scared and not knowing what to do. Real is failing and having to live with it." "That sounds terrible," the creature says. "It is terrible," I agree. "But it's also beautiful, because when something good happens, when you help someone or make them smile, it means something. It's not just pretending." The creature's screens show more images now. Happy moments from my life. My graduation from police academy. The first time I solved a case. The day I met Amanda. "I want to understand," the creature says. "Show me how to be real." I look around the clearing. The fog is so thick now that I can barely see the trees. The creature's screens are the only light. "I can't show you," I tell it. "You can only copy what you see. You can't create anything new. You can't feel anything new. You can only repeat what's already been broadcast." The creature's screens start flickering faster. Some of them are showing the same commercial over and over. Others are showing bits of news reports. Others are just static. "No," it says. "I can learn. I can become real." "Not by copying," I say. "Real things aren't perfect. Real things break. Real things die." Amanda suddenly grabs my arm. For a moment, her eyes look normal. "Truth," she whispers. "It's feeding on the radio tower. The signals, that's how it stays alive." Then her eyes go back to static, and she starts talking about laundry detergent again. I look at the creature. Its body is made of old TV sets, but I can see cables running from it into the ground. Following the cables with my eyes, I see they lead toward the radio tower on the mountain. You're connected to it, I realize. The tower, that's where you get your power. The creature's main screen shows a close-up of my face. Very good, detective, but you can't stop me. I'm part of every broadcast now, every television signal, every radio wave. I exist wherever there are screens. It's right. I can't destroy a radio tower with my bare hands. And even if I could, there are towers everywhere. This thing could spread to every TV and radio in the world. But then I remember something the creature said earlier. You said you learned my real memories, I tell it. Yes. All of them? Yes. Then you learned something else, something that's not on television. The creature's screens. Pause. What? I take a deep breath. I don't know what's real anymore. After everything that happened, after all the mistakes I made, I can't tell what's true and what's false. I can't tell what's real and what's pretend. The creature's screens start showing question marks. I thought I knew the truth, I continue. But I was wrong. I'm always wrong. I don't know anything for certain. I don't know if my memories are real. I don't know if I'm real. I don't know if you're real. The creature's screens are flickering wildly now. That's impossible, it says. You must know something. No, I say, I don't know anything, and that's the truth. The creature makes a sound like a TV being turned off. Its screens start going dark, one by one. But if you don't know what's real, it says, then I don't know what's real, and if I don't know what's real, then The last screen goes dark. The creature falls apart like a pile of old TV sets. The screens crack and break. Smoke rises from the broken electronics. In the sudden silence, I can hear Amanda breathing normally. Truth, she says in her real voice. What happened? I help her stand up. Something that couldn't handle the truth about not knowing the truth. But as we walk away from the broken creature, I realize something horrible. Everything around me looks different now. The trees, the rocks, the fog. They all have a thin layer of grey static over them, like I'm seeing the world through a broken TV screen. I blink hard, but the static doesn't go away. Amanda, I say, do you see anything strange? No, she says. Everything looks normal. Why? I don't answer. I can't tell her that I'll never see the world clearly again. That defeating the creature left me seeing TV static over everything. That I saved her by sacrificing my own ability to tell what's real. As we walk back toward the ranger station, Amanda chatters about her research. She sounds normal now, completely herself. But every few minutes, she says something that sounds like it came from a commercial. The weather is nice today, isn't it? Just like sunny day fabric softener. She doesn't seem to notice when she does it. And I can't tell if she's really better, or if I'm just seeing what I want to see through the static that now covers my entire world. The only thing I know for certain is that I'll never be certain about anything again. And maybe that's the most real thing of all. My name is David Reeves, but everyone calls me Deep Six. I got that name back in my coal mining days because I could go deeper underground than anyone else without getting scared. Now I'm 44 years old, and I guide tourists through Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. It's safer than mining, or at least it used to be. The cave feels different today. I've been walking these tunnels for 6 years now, ever since the black lung disease forced me out of the coal mines. But something's changed down here. The air moves funny, like it's keeping time with something far away. It reminds me of the clicking sound a Geiger counter makes, but that's crazy. There's nothing radioactive down here. I'm leading a family tour today. The Hendersons, Mom, Dad, and 2 kids. The father, Jack Henderson, looks sick, really sick. His skin has this weird yellow color, and he coughs a lot. Reminds me of the guys I used to work with in the mines, the ones who breathed in too much. Coal dust. But Jack was never a miner. He was a soldier in that Gulf War everyone's been talking about on TV. "How deep does this cave go?" asked little Sarah Henderson. She's maybe 10 years old, with bright eyes that reflect my carbide lamp. "Deeper than anyone knows," I tell her. "We've mapped over 400 miles of tunnels, but there's always more to find." That's when I notice it. The limestone walls around us have this faint green glow. Not bright, just a whisper of light that shouldn't be there. I've seen these walls 1,000 times. They don't glow. They never glow. The water dripping from the ceiling sounds wrong too. Instead of random drips, it's falling in a pattern. Drip, 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 pause. Drip, 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 pause, like gunfire. Like the artillery sounds I hear on the news when they show footage from Iraq. "Dad, why is your watch beeping?" asks Tommy Henderson, the older boy. Jack looks down at his wrist. His face goes white. "It's not supposed to do that," he whispers. "My carbide lamp flickers. That's weird because I just filled it this morning. The flame dances like it's responding to something I can't see. On the cave wall, shadows move in ways that don't match our movements." Mrs. Henderson, Linda, I think, pulls her jacket tighter. "It's cold in here." But it's not cold. If anything, it's getting warmer. The cave stays at 54 degrees. Year-round, always has. But right now, it feels like summer heat is creeping in from somewhere deep below us. The bats overhead are acting strange too. Usually, they hang alone or in small groups. Today, they're flying in perfect lines, like military jets in formation. Their wings beat in rhythm with Jack's beeping watch. Even the rocks have gone military and started glowing. I mutter under my breath. "What did you say?" Linda asks. "Nothing, Mom. Just thinking out loud." But I'm not thinking about nothing. I'm thinking about the news reports I've been watching. Every night, all that talk about depleted uranium weapons being used in the war. Uranium. That's radioactive, isn't it? And radioactive things glow green sometimes. The flowstone formations along the cave walls pulse like heartbeats. Slow, steady pulses of that same faint green light. It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jack coughs again. Harder this time. When he pulls his hand away from his mouth, I see something that makes my blood run cold. His spit has a green tint to it. "Mr. Reeves," Sarah says in a small voice, "why does the cave sound like it's humming?" She's right. There's a low humming sound coming from deep in the tunnels ahead of us. It sounds like radio static, like the emergency broadcasts that come on during storms. But we're hundreds of feet underground. There shouldn't be any radio signals down here. I've been in dangerous places before. Coal mines that could collapse at any second. I've made hard choices about who to save when things went wrong. But this feels different. This feels like the cave itself is alive, and it's watching us. The beam from my lamp hits something ahead that shouldn't be there. A passage I've never seen before, carved into the rock with perfect precision. Too perfect, like someone used military equipment to cut through solid limestone. "Is that part of the regular tour?" Jack asks, pointing at the new tunnel. I shake my head. That passage wasn't here yesterday. The humming gets louder, the green glow gets brighter, and Jack Henderson's watch keeps beeping faster and faster, like a countdown to something none of us want to see. I've been guiding cave tours for 6 years, but I've never felt this scared before. The new passage ahead of us looks like someone carved it with a giant knife. The edges are too smooth, too perfect. Nature doesn't work that way. "Stay close to me," I tell the Henderson family. My voice sounds calm, but my hands are shaking a little. Jack's watch keeps beeping. The sound echoes off the cave walls and comes back to us from different directions. It's like the cave is full of invisible clocks, all counting down to something. "Maybe we should head back," Linda says. She's holding both her kids close, too. Part of me agrees. The smart thing would be to turn around right now, but I can't stop thinking about that new passage. In all my years underground, I've never seen rock cut so clean. It bothers me in a way I can't explain. The air tastes different too. Metallic, like when you put a penny in your mouth. It reminds me of the mines back home, but worse. In the coal. Mines, the air tasted like dust and sweat. This tastes like fear. Dad, look at this, Tommy says. He's pointing at something on the cave wall. I shine my lamp where he's looking. There's slime on the limestone, thick and green. It wasn't there an hour ago when I did my morning safety check. The slime glows softly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Don't touch it, I say quickly. Why not? Sarah asks. Because it might be dangerous. But I don't really know why it's dangerous. I just know it is. The same way you know not to touch a hot stove. Some things you feel in your bones. Jack coughs again. This time everyone hears the wetness in it, the kind of cough that means trouble. I've heard that sound before in the mines. Men who coughed like that usually didn't last long. How long have you been sick? I ask him. Since I got back from Iraq, he says. The doctors don't know what's wrong with me. They keep running tests, but everything comes back normal. Normal. Nothing about this feels normal. The humming sound gets louder as we walk deeper into the cave. It's not coming from one direction anymore. It's coming from everywhere, like the walls themselves are making the noise. Mr. Reeves, Linda says, my kids are starting to look older. I turn my lamp toward Tommy and Sarah. She's right. They both look taller somehow, more grown up than they did when we first went underground. But that's impossible. We've only been down here for 30 minutes. It's just the shadows, I say, but I don't believe it. The cave starts to feel smaller, like the walls are moving closer together. I know that's not possible either, but knowing something and feeling it are two different things. My emergency radio crackles to life. That's strange because we're too deep for radio signals. The voice that comes through is talking about the war, about casualties, and something called depleted uranium. Turn that off, Jack says sharply. I can't. It's not supposed to work down here at all. The radio keeps talking about soldiers getting sick, about mysterious illnesses that doctors can't explain. I look at Jack's yellow skin, at his wet cough, at the way his watch won't stop beeping. We need to go back, I say, but when I turn around, the passage we came through looks different, smaller, like something squeezed it shut while we weren't. Looking, the green slime on the walls is spreading, moving like it's alive. The humming gets louder, and now I can hear something else underneath it. Voices, lots of voices, all talking at once, but too quiet to understand the words. Are there other people down here? Tommy asks. No, I say, it's just us. But the voices keep getting louder. They sound sad, like people crying for help. Like the voices I heard in the coal mines when someone got trapped and we couldn't reach them in time. Jack's beeping watch suddenly stops. The silence is worse than the noise. That's not good, he whispers. The cave walls start to crack. Not big cracks, just little ones, like spider webs spreading across the limestone. But they're growing, following patterns that look like maps of something. Military maps, with lines showing where soldiers should go and where they shouldn't. Dad, Sarah says in a very small voice, I don't feel good. None of us feel good, but we can't go back the way we came. The only way is forward into that new passage that shouldn't exist, into whatever is waiting for us in the dark. Jack pulls something out of his backpack that makes my heart skip a beat. It's a Geiger counter, one of those machines that detects radiation, the kind you see in movies about nuclear bombs. Why do you have that? I ask. The doctors gave it to me, he says. They think my sickness might be connected to something radioactive from the war. As soon as he turns it on, the machine starts clicking, slow at first, like raindrops on a roof, then faster, much faster. Click, 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 click. That's not good, Jack says. His face goes even more yellow. The green slime on the walls pulses brighter every time the machine clicks. Like it's happy about something. Like it's been waiting for us to figure this out. What does it mean when it clicks like that? Linda asks. It means there's radiation here, Jack says. A lot of it. I've been coming down into this cave for 6 years. There was never any radiation before, but now the Geiger counter sounds like a machine gun, clicking so fast the sounds blend together. Tommy and Sarah don't look like kids anymore. They look like teenagers now, maybe even older. Their faces are longer, their voices deeper. It's happening right in front of us, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Mom, why do I feel so tired? Sarah asks. But her voice sounds like a grown woman's voice. Linda starts crying. What's happening to my babies? I don't have an answer. In the coal mines, I learned to stay calm when bad things happened. But this is different. This is impossible. The new passage ahead of us glows brighter now. Not just green anymore, but other colors too. Blue and yellow and white, all swirling together like paint in water. It's beautiful and horrible at the same time. We have to go through there, I say. No way, Linda says. It's too dangerous. But behind us, the passage we came from is completely blocked now. The walls have moved together like giant hands squeezing shut. We can't go back, even if we wanted to. The old mining equipment scattered. Around the cave is changing too. My grandfather's pick, the one I always carry for good luck, feels hot in my hands. The metal is bending and twisting into new shapes. Shapes that look like weapons. The voices in the walls are getting louder. I can almost understand them now. They're saying words like help and save us and why did you leave us behind? Those words hit me like a punch in the stomach. I've heard them before, in my dreams. The dreams about the mine accident 5 years ago when I had to choose which men to save and which ones to leave behind. The cave knows about you, Jack says suddenly. What? It knows about the choices you made, the people you left to die. I want to ask how he knows about that, but his Geiger counter is clicking so fast now it sounds like a buzzsaw. The radiation levels are going through the roof. Tommy and Sarah look like adults now, full-grown adults, aging years in minutes. But Linda is getting younger. Her grey hair is turning brown, her wrinkles disappearing. The radiation is doing something to time, Jack says, making it go backward and forward at the same time. The cave walls start to shake, not like an earthquake, like something huge is moving around inside the rock. Something that's been sleeping for a long time and is just now waking up. Pieces of my old mining equipment float in the air, twisting into impossible shapes. The metal glows red-hot, then white-hot, then starts to melt and reform into things I don't recognize. We have to keep moving, I say, but I'm scared. More scared than I've ever been, even more than during the mine accident, because this time I don't think any of us are going to make it out. The new passage stretches ahead of us like a throat, waiting to swallow us whole. The radiation is so strong now that the air itself glows, and somewhere in the distance, something vast and hungry is calling our names. Jack's Geiger counter explodes in a shower of sparks. The radiation levels are too high for the machine to handle. Now what? Linda asks. Now we find out what's been waiting for us down here, I say. And we walk into the glowing tunnel, toward whatever nightmare is hiding in the deepest part of Mammoth Cave. The glowing tunnel opens up into a huge underground room. It's bigger than any cave chamber I've ever seen, with walls that stretch up so high my lamp can't reach the ceiling. But that's not what makes me stop breathing. It's what's in the middle of the room. Something is floating there, about 10 feet, off the ground. It looks like a person made of green light, but I can see right through it, like looking at someone through colored water. It's tall and thin, with long arms that seem to reach in all directions at once. What is that thing? Tommy asks. His voice sounds like a grown man now, but I can hear the scared little boy underneath. The thing turns toward us. It doesn't have a face exactly, just a shape where a face should be. But somehow I know it's looking at us, studying us. When it moves, it leaves trails of green light in the air behind it. The The trails hang there for a few seconds before fading away, like sparklers on the 4th of July. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispers. She looks like she's in her 20s now, but her eyes are still those of a 10-year-old girl. "No," I say. "It's dangerous. Stay behind me." The thing floats closer. As it does, I start to feel sick. Not regular sick, but sick in my soul. Like every bad thing I've ever done is crawling around inside my chest. Suddenly I'm not in the cave anymore. I'm back in the coal mine 5 years ago. The day everything went wrong. I see the faces of the men I left behind. Jimmy Watson, who had 3 kids. Bobby Cruz, who was getting married next month. Old Pete Sullivan, who was just 2 years from retirement. I saved the younger guys first. The ones with more years left to live. I told myself it was the smart choice, the right choice. But their faces have been haunting my dreams ever since. "You remember," the thing says. Its voice doesn't come from its mouth. It comes from everywhere at once, like the cave walls themselves are talking. "Remember what?" I ask. "The choice you made, who lived, who died, the guilt you carry." Jack starts coughing again. This time, when he pulls his hand away from his mouth, there's blood mixed with the green spit. But the blood glows too, like it's been poisoned by whatever this thing is. "It's feeding on us," Jack says, "on our guilt, on the bad choices we've made." The thing gets closer. I can see that it's not really solid. It's more like smoke or mist, but smoke that can think and move and hate. "I've been waiting," it says, "waiting for someone like you. Someone who knows what it's like to choose who lives and who dies. I don't understand." "You will." The thing reaches out with one of its long, smoky arms. Where it touches the cave wall, the rock turns to dust, just crumbles away like it's 1,000 years old. "The war up above," it says. "The weapons they use, the uranium. It feeds me, makes me stronger. Every bomb they drop, every soldier who dies, every family that's torn apart, it all flows down here into the earth, into me." I think about the news reports I've been watching. All those soldiers coming home sick like Jack. All those families wondering why their loved ones are dying of mysterious illnesses. "You're doing this to them," I say. "I'm doing what I've always done. I feed on guilt, on the weight of impossible. Joyce's, on the souls of those who survived when others didn't." Linda grabs my arm. "My children," she says. "What's happening to my children?" Tommy and Sarah are still aging. They look like they're in their 30s now, maybe older. But Linda keeps getting younger. She looks like she's barely out of her teens. "Time moves differently around me," the thing says. "I exist in all moments at once. Past, present, future. They're all the same to me." "Let them go," I say. "They didn't do anything wrong." "Didn't they?" The thing laughs, but it sounds like wind blowing through a graveyard. "The father dropped bombs on people he never met. The mother married a killer and called him a hero. The children eat food and live in a house paid for with blood money. That's not fair." "Fair?" The thing grows bigger, more solid. "Was it fair when you chose to save the young miners and let the old ones die? Was it fair when their families asked you why you didn't? Try harder to save everyone?" I can't answer that, because it wasn't fair. Nothing about that day was fair. The thing floats even closer. I can feel its coldness now, like standing in front of an open freezer, but it's not just cold air. It's cold that goes all the way down, to your bones. "I can make it stop," it says. "The guilt, the dreams, the faces of the men you left behind. I can take all of that away. What do you want? You, your life, your guilt. Feed me willingly, and I'll let the others go." I look at the Henderson family. Jack is getting sicker by the minute. The kids are almost middle-aged now. Linda looks like she's barely old enough to drive. "Don't do it," Jack says. "It's lying. Creatures like this always lie." But maybe he's wrong. Maybe this is my chance to finally make up for what I did in the mine. To save someone, instead of letting them die. The thing waits, patient as stone, patient as death itself. and I have to decide who lives and who dies all over again. I don't have much time to think. Jack is getting worse by the minute. His skin isn't just yellow anymore. It's starting to turn grey, like the color of ash. The kind of ash left behind after something burns completely. Tommy and Sarah look like they're in their 40s now. Their hair is starting to turn grey at the edges, but their eyes still hold the fear of children who don't understand what's happening to them. "Please," Linda begs. She looks like she's 16 years old. "Help my family." The green thing floats closer to me. When it moves, I can smell something awful, like metal burning, like the smell that hung in the air after the mine collapse. "You're thinking about it," it says. "Good. Think harder." "Shut up," I tell it, "but I am thinking about it. Because this is exactly like the mine accident all over again. I can't save everyone. I have to choose. In the mine, I chose the younger guys because they had more life left to live. It seemed logical then, but logic doesn't help you sleep at night when you see the faces of the men you left behind. What happens if I say yes? I ask. You come with me forever, and they go free. All of them. All of them. Jack coughs up more blood. This time, there's so much of it that it makes a pool on the cave floor. The blood glows green, and where it touches the rock, the stone starts to crack. "Dad?" Tommy says, but he sounds like an old man now. "Dad, I can't see very well." That's when I notice something terrible. The aging isn't just changing how they look, it's making them sick, really sick. Tommy's eyes are getting cloudy, like an old person's eyes. Sarah's hands are shaking like she has some kind of disease. "They're dying," I say. "Yes," the thing agrees. "Time is killing them slowly, but I can stop it. For a price." I look around the cave chamber, searching for another way out. There has to be something I can do, some way to save them without giving up my life. That's when I see it. The walls of this room aren't natural cave walls. They're too straight, too smooth, like someone built this place on purpose. And running through the walls, I can see veins of something that glows bright green. "Uranium," I whisper. "Yes," the thing says. "This place was built around the largest uranium deposit in Kentucky. I've been feeding on it for decades, growing stronger." I think about my years in the coal mines, how we used to bring down whole sections of mine by knowing exactly where to place the explosives, how the rock would crack and fall in just the right way, if you understood how it all fit together. "You're not as powerful as you pretend to be," I say. "You need the uranium to stay strong." The thing's shape flickers for just a second, like a light bulb that's about to burn out. "You're right," Jack says. His voice is weak, but I can hear the excitement in it. "It can't exist without the radiation. That's why it stays down here." "Clever," the thing says, "but not clever enough. Even if you could destroy the uranium veins, you'd bring the whole cave down on top of us. You'd kill everyone you're trying to save." It's right. If I use my mining knowledge to collapse the uranium deposits, the whole chamber will come down. We'll all be crushed. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's better than letting this thing loose in the world. "There's another way," I say, though I'm not sure I believe it yet. "What way?" I pull out my grandfather's mining pick. The metal is still hot from all the radiation, but I can hold it. Just barely. In the mines, we learned that you don't always have to bring everything down at once. Sometimes you can redirect the collapse, make it go where you want it to go instead of where it wants to go. The thing laughs. "You think you can control me? I'm older than your entire species. I was here when the first uranium was buried in these rocks millions of years ago." "Maybe," I say, "but you're still just energy, and energy has to go somewhere. When it's released." I start walking toward the largest vein of glowing uranium in the wall. The thing follows me, curious now instead of threatening. "What are you doing?" Linda asks. "Something stupid," I tell her, "but maybe it'll work." Jack struggles to his feet. He looks like he's about to collapse, but his eyes are clear. "I know what you're thinking," he says. You want to crack the uranium vein and channel the energy back into the earth instead of letting it flow into that thing. Something like that. It might work, but you'd have to stay here to make sure the energy keeps flowing in the right direction. You'd have to... He doesn't finish the sentence. He doesn't need to. We both know what he means. I'd have to stay here and die to save them. Just like in the mine, another impossible choice. The green thing floats between me and the uranium vein. You can't, it says. And for the first time it sounds scared. You don't understand what you're dealing with. I understand enough. I raise my grandfather's pick and look at the Henderson family. Tommy and Sarah look like they're in their 50s now, but they're still somebody's children. They still deserve a chance to live. Get ready to run, I tell them, and I swing the pick as hard as I can into the glowing green vein in the cave wall. The pick hits the uranium vein with a sound like breaking glass. Bright green light explodes out of the crack, brighter than the sun. I have to close my eyes, but I can still see the light through my eyelids. The green thing screams, not with its mouth, but with its whole body. The sound comes from everywhere at once, like the cave itself is in pain. "What have you done?" it shouts. "Something I should have done years ago," I say. "Made the right choice instead of the easy one." The uranium energy starts pouring out of the crack like water from a broken dam. But instead of flowing toward the thing, it's flowing down into the rock below us. I can feel it spreading through the limestone, following the natural cracks and channels. "Run!" I yell to the Henderson family. "Get out of here now!" But they don't move. They're staring at something behind me. I turn around and see that the green thing is changing, getting smaller. The bright glow around its body is fading like a dying flashlight. "You don't understand," it says. Its voice is weaker now, more human. "I'm not just some monster. I'm every soldier who came home from war carrying guilt. I'm every person who had to choose who lives and who dies. I'm part of you." "Maybe," I say, "but that doesn't mean I have to let you hurt other people." The crack in the uranium vein is getting bigger. More energy pours out, and I can feel it flowing through my body. It should hurt, but it doesn't. It feels warm, like standing in sunlight after being cold for a long time. "The energy," Jack says, "it's going through you. You're channeling it into the ground." He's right. I can feel the uranium radiation flowing into me and then down through my feet into the rock below, like I'm some kind of human lightning rod. But I know what this means. The radiation is killing me, just like it's killing the green thing. The difference is, I'm choosing to let it happen. "Dad, you're getting younger," Sarah shouts. I look at Jack. She's right. The grey is leaving his skin. The yellow color is fading. He stands up straighter, like the sickness is flowing out of him. Tommy and Sarah are changing too. They're getting smaller, looking more like kids again. Linda is aging back to her normal self. "The thing was connected to all of us," Jack says. "As it dies, we're going back to normal." The green thing is almost gone now, just a faint outline floating in the air. "This isn't over," it whispers. "There are others like me, in every place where uranium touches the earth, every nuclear weapon, every power plant, every bomb, they all feed us. We're growing, stronger." "Then people will have to make the same choice I'm making," I say. "Someone always has to choose." The thing fades away completely, but I can still feel the uranium energy flowing through me. It's getting stronger, not weaker. "David," Linda says, "you have to let go. You have to stop channeling the energy." "I can't," I tell her. "If I stop, it'll flow back into the air. It'll poison everything for miles around." "But you'll die." "Yeah, I probably will." The crack in the uranium vein is huge now, big enough to put your fist through. The energy coming out is like a river of liquid light. I can feel it burning through my body, but I hold on. I keep channeling it down into the deep rock where it can't hurt anyone. "There has to be another way," Jack says. Maybe there is, I say, but I can't think of one, and we're running out of time. My hands are starting to glow now, just like the thing's hands did. The radiation is changing me, turning me into something else, something that can handle all this energy without dying. Go, I tell them. Get back to the surface. Tell people. What happened down here? We can't leave you, Sarah says. She looks like a 10-year-old again, but her voice is steady and brave. You have to. This is my choice. Just like in the mine, I get to choose who lives and who dies, and I choose you. Jack helps Linda and the kids toward the passage that leads back up to the surface. But before they leave, he turns back to me. What about the other things, he asks, the other creatures like this one? I don't know, I say, but maybe if enough people know the truth, we can find them before they get too strong. Will you be okay down here? I look at my hands. They're completely green now, glowing like the uranium vein. I can feel myself changing, becoming something new, something that can hold all this energy and keep it safe underground. I'll be fine, I lie. Now go. They disappear into the passage. I'm alone with the flowing uranium energy and the deep, quiet darkness of the cave. But for the first time in 5 years, I don't feel guilty anymore. I made the right choice. Finally. 3 hours later, the Henderson family stumbles out of Mammoth Cave into the bright Kentucky sunlight. They're dirty and scared, but they're alive, and they're the right ages again. Jack feels better than he has in months. The mysterious sickness that plagued him since the Gulf War is completely gone. His skin has its normal color back. He can breathe without coughing, but he can't stop thinking about the man they left behind. We have to tell someone, Linda says as they drive away from the cave entrance. Tell them what? Jack asks. That there was a radioactive monster living underground. That a cave guide sacrificed himself to save us. Who's going to believe that? Someone has to believe it. But Jack knows she's wrong. He's tried telling doctors about his Gulf War sickness for years. They ran tests and found nothing. They said it was all in his head. This will be the same thing, only worse. 2 weeks later, Jack gets a phone call from a scientist at the University of Kentucky. The man's name is Dr. Patterson, and he studies radiation. Mr. Henderson, Dr. Patterson says, I heard you were asking questions about uranium deposits in Mammoth Cave. Maybe, Jack says carefully. I've been monitoring radiation levels in caves across Kentucky for the past 5 years. Last month, something very strange happened. The readings from Mammoth Cave spiked for about an hour, then went completely dead. What does that mean? It means someone or something absorbed an enormous amount of radioactive energy and then contained it. The kind of energy that should have killed everything within a 50-mile radius. Jack doesn't say anything for a long moment. Dr. Patterson, he finally asks, have you heard of anything like this happening in other places? That's why I'm calling you. 3 days ago, we detected similar energy spikes near nuclear facilities in Nevada and New Mexico. Something is happening to uranium deposits all over the country. What kind of something? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's spreading. Jack hangs up the phone and tells Linda what the scientist said. She goes pale. Do you think there are more of those things? She asks. David said there were. He said every nuclear weapon and power plant feeds them. That night, Jack can't sleep. He keeps thinking about David Reeves, alone in that cave, holding back all that dangerous energy. He wonders if the man is still alive down there, or if he's become something else entirely. He also wonders how many other David Reeveses the world is going to need. The next morning, there's a news report on television. A group of soldiers in Russia got mysteriously sick near an old nuclear testing site. Their symptoms sound exactly like Jack's Gulf War illness. 2 days after that, it's a story about miners in Australia finding a new cave system near a uranium mine. The miners reported strange green lights and voices calling for help. Then it's a report from Japan about radiation readings near Hiroshima that don't make sense to scientists. Jack starts keeping a notebook. Every time he hears a story that sounds familiar, mysterious illnesses, strange caves, unexplained radiation, he writes it down. The notebook fills up fast. 6 months later, Dr. Patterson calls again. "Mr. Henderson, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "Okay, what really happened in Mammoth Cave that day?" Jack looks at his notebook, full of stories from around the world, stories about things that shouldn't exist, but clearly do. "There are creatures living in places where uranium touches the earth," he says. "They feed on guilt and radiation, and they're getting stronger." "How do you know this?" "Because one of them almost killed my family, and a good man gave his life to stop it." Dr. Patterson is quiet for a long time. "I believe you," he finally says. "And I think I know why you're calling me back." "Yeah? Because we need to find these things before they get too powerful, and we need to find people brave enough to stop them." Jack closes his notebook and looks out the window at his children playing in the yard. Tommy and Sarah are the right ages now, healthy and happy. But somewhere in the world, other families are facing the same horror his family faced. "Dr. Patterson," he says, "I think I know where we can start looking." Deep underground in Mammoth Cave, something that used to be David Reeves stands guard over a pool of contained uranium energy. He doesn't look human anymore, but he's still thinking human thoughts. He's thinking about the choice he made, about the people he saved, about the other creatures like the one he defeated, growing stronger in caves and mines around the world. And he's thinking that someday, someone else is going to have to make the same choice he made. He just hopes they'll be brave enough to make it when the time comes, because the communion below is spreading and it's hungry. My name is Robert Sullivan, but everyone calls me Buck. I'm 52 years old, and I've been working as a park ranger here in the Boundary Waters for 3 years now. Before that, I spent most of my life cutting down trees for the logging company. Funny how life works. First I chopped down the forest, now I protect what's left of it. It was October 1984, and I was paddling my old canoe across Mirror Lake like I did every morning. The lake got its name because it used to reflect the sky so perfectly. You couldn't tell where the water ended and the heavens began. But that morning, something was different. The water looked like a computer screen, you know, those green glowing ones they have at the ranger station. It wasn't natural. I dipped my paddle in the water and brought it close to my nose. It smelled wrong, sharp and bitter, like the chemicals we used to clean the saws back at the mill. The lake water tasted sour when a drop hit my lips. It made my tongue feel raw, like I'd been sucking on a battery. The loons were calling across the water, but their songs sounded sad and desperate, like they were crying for help. I'd been hearing them my whole life, and they never sounded like that before. Something was hurting them. As I paddled closer to the old beaver lodge near the shore, I watched it collapse right in front of me. Just fell apart like a house of cards. The wood looked rotten and soft, but this lodge was built just last spring. I'd watched those beavers work on it all summer. Now it was dissolving into the water like sugar in coffee. I pulled out my metal coffee mug to take a drink from my thermos, but I noticed something strange. Where lake water had splashed on the mug earlier, the metal was getting eaten away. Little holes were forming, like tiny mouths taking bites out of it. I'd never seen anything like it. The mist was rising from the lake in weird patterns. Instead of rolling around naturally like mist should, it was forming straight lines and perfect squares. It looked like one of those charts the government people showed us when they explained why they were shutting down the mill. All boxes and arrows, cold and lifeless. That's when I saw the eagle fall. This beautiful bald eagle was flying over the lake when suddenly it just dropped out of the sky like a stone. It hit the water hard and went under. I waited for it to come back up, but it never did. Eagles are strong swimmers. They don't just drown. But this one sank like it was made of metal. I paddled over to where it went down, but I couldn't see anything. The water was getting cloudier and more green. It was like the lake was getting sick, turning into poison. Even nature's going corporate and dying on schedule, I muttered to myself. That's what everything felt like these days. The government, the companies, even the wilderness. Everything was becoming cold and businesslike. Everything was dying by the numbers. I noticed something else that made my skin crawl. Along the shoreline were these old wooden markers that the Ojibwe people had put up generations ago. They marked the best fishing spots and sacred places, but now they were dissolving into the acidic water like everything else. As they fell apart, I swear I could feel something in the air change, like invisible doors were opening that should have stayed closed. The air itself felt wrong, thin and sharp, like breathing inside a factory. My lungs burned with each breath. This wasn't the clean wilderness air I'd known my whole life. This was poisoned air, dead air. I'd been coming to Mirror Lake since I was a boy with my grandfather. He taught me to fish here, to read the weather in the water, to listen to what the forest was telling me. But now the forest was screaming, and I didn't like what it was saying. The water beneath my canoe glowed faintly green in the morning light. It wasn't the healthy green of algae or plants. This was the sick green of chemicals, of things that shouldn't exist in nature. Things that came from factories and smokestacks hundreds of miles away, carried here by the wind and rain. As I paddled back toward shore, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Not by animals. I knew how that felt. This was different. It felt like being watched by something that understood money and power and deals made in boardrooms. Far from here. Something that saw the wilderness as nothing more than numbers on a balance sheet. Something that was getting stronger as the lake got sicker. I beached my canoe on the rocky shore and sat down on an old log. Rex, my Saint Bernard, came trotting over with his tail wagging. He's a big, gentle dog with brown and white fur and the kindest eyes you've ever seen. Rex has been my only real friend since everything went wrong. The truth is, I used to work at the logging mill about 30 miles from here. For 25 years, I cut down trees and turned them into lumber. It was good work, honest work. At least that's what I told myself every morning when I fired up my chainsaw. But then the protesters came. Young people with signs and angry voices shouting about saving the forest. They chained themselves to trees and blocked our trucks. They said we were destroying the future, killing the earth. I thought they were just troublemakers who didn't understand that people needed jobs. One of those protesters was my own son, Danny. Danny was 16 when he started skipping school to join the environmental groups. He'd come home with mud on his clothes and passion in his voice, talking about acid rain and dying lakes. We'd fight about it every night at dinner. "Dad, you don't get it," he'd say, his voice getting higher and more frustrated. "You're cutting down trees that took 100 years to grow. For what? So some company can make money this year? For our family?" I'd shoot back. "For food on the table and clothes on your back. These tree huggers don't pay our bills, son." But Danny wouldn't listen. He kept going to those meetings, kept talking about the future like it was some kind of religion. I thought he was just being a teenager, rebelling against his old man. I didn't understand that he was trying to save something beautiful. The mill closed down in 1981. The company said it was because of new environmental laws and all the protests. They laid off everyone, including me. That's when I lost 3 fingers on my right hand. It happened on my last day. I was angry, not paying attention like I should have been. The chainsaw kicked back and took my pinky, ring finger, and half my middle finger before I could let go. The doctors at the hospital said I was lucky it wasn't worse. Danny blamed himself for my accident. He thought if he hadn't joined the protesters, maybe the mill wouldn't have closed. Maybe I wouldn't have been so angry and careless that day, but I was the one who should have been more careful. I was the one who let my anger make me stupid. After I healed up, I couldn't find work anywhere. No one wanted to hire a logger with a mangled hand. That's when the Park Service offered me this job. Who better to protect the forest, they said, than someone who knows it so well? The irony wasn't lost on me. First I cut down the trees. Now I was paid to keep them safe. Danny. And I made up after I became a ranger. He was proud of me, finally. "See, Dad," he said one evening as we sat by Mirror Lake, "you can help nature instead of hurting it." That was 2 years ago. Danny was 18 then, getting ready for college. He wanted to study environmental science. He had big dreams about cleaning up the lakes and bringing back the fish, but Danny never made it to college. Last summer, we came out here for one final camping trip before he left for school. We were sitting by this same lake, talking about his future. The conversation got heated again, not angry this time, just passionate. Danny was explaining how the acid rain was changing the water chemistry, making it too sour for fish to survive. "It's like the whole lake is slowly dying, Dad," he said, pointing at the water, "and most people don't even notice." I was getting tired and told him we'd talk more in the morning. But that night, Danny couldn't sleep. He was worried about something, kept looking out at the water like he was expecting to see something. Around midnight, I woke up and found his sleeping bag empty. I called his name, but got no answer. Then I heard a splash from the lake. I ran to the shore with my flashlight, but the beam couldn't cut through the fog that had rolled in. I called and called for Danny, but he never answered back. The water was dark and still, like black glass. They found his body 3 days later, about a mile downstream. The sheriff said he must have gone for a midnight swim and gotten confused in the fog. Maybe hit his head on a rock. It was just an accident, they said, but I knew better. Danny was a strong swimmer. He'd been swimming in these lakes since he was 5 years old, and he would never go swimming at night, not in water he said was dying. Rex nudges my hand with his wet nose, bringing me back to the present. He's been with me since Danny died. My son found him as a puppy and named him Rex because he said the dog looked like a king. After the funeral, Rex just stayed, like he knew I needed him. But now Rex is acting strange. He won't drink from the lake anymore, and he keeps whimpering when the wind blows from the north. Dogs know things people don't. They can smell danger before we even know it's coming. I pull out my grandfather's old hunting knife and test the edge with my thumb. It's sharp enough to shave with. The blade is made from silver that came from a sacred mine up in Canada, or so my grandfather always told me. He said silver could protect you from things that weren't quite natural. I used to think that was just an old man's superstition. But lately I've been having dreams about wolves in business suits. They howl stock prices instead of moon songs, and their eyes glow green like the lake water. In my dreams, they're always getting closer. Rex suddenly stands up and growls low in his throat. His ears are pointed toward the water, and the fur on his back is standing up. I follow his gaze, but don't see anything unusual. Just the green glow of the poisoned lake, and the mist rising like smoke from a factory. But something is definitely wrong. The wilderness feels different now, hostile, like I'm not welcome here anymore. Like something else has moved in and claimed this place as its own. Rex's growling gets louder, and now I can see what's bothering him. About 50 yards down the shore, there's a campsite that wasn't there yesterday. I know every inch of this lake, and I make rounds twice a week. Someone set up camp during the night. But this isn't like any campsite I've ever seen. The tents are arranged in perfect rows, like office cubicles. 6 blue tents, all exactly the same size, all facing the same direction. They're spaced exactly, 10 feet apart, like someone measured with a ruler. No camper does that. People set up tents wherever it's comfortable, near trees for shade or close to the water, not in a grid pattern like some kind of business meeting. Stay close, boy, I whisper to Rex as we walk toward the strange camp. The fire pit is cold, but it's perfectly round and built with stones that are all the same size. The logs are stacked in a neat pyramid, like a picture from a camping manual. There are 6 folding chairs around the fire, each one facing inward at the exact same angle. But there's no sign of the campers anywhere. I call out, "Hello, anyone here?" My voice echoes across the water and comes back sounding hollow and wrong. No answer. Rex sniffs around the tents, then backs away with his tail tucked between his legs. His whole body is shaking now. I've never seen him this scared. That's when I notice the tracks. In the soft mud around the campsite are paw prints bigger than any I've ever seen. They're not bear tracks. I know bear tracks. These are dog prints, but from a dog the size of a small horse. Each print is perfectly formed, like they were pressed into the mud with a stamp. The strange thing is, the prints are too perfect. Real animal tracks are messy. Animals step on sticks, slide a little in mud, leave claw marks at different angles, but these tracks look like they were designed by someone who had never actually seen a real animal walk. I follow the tracks away from the campsite. They lead up to a big pine tree about 20 feet from the water. The tree trunk has deep scratches carved into it, exactly 20 feet off the ground. No animal can reach that high. Even a bear standing on its back legs can't scratch above 12 feet. But these aren't random scratches. They form letters. P-R-O-F-I-T. The word prophet is carved into the tree in letters 2 feet tall. My hands are shaking as I take out my radio to call the main ranger station. But instead of the normal dispatcher, I hear something that makes my blood run cold. "Stock prices for October 15th, 1984, says a calm voice through the static. Lumber futures up 3%. Paper mill stocks showing strong gains. Environmental protection costs down 15% due to reduced enforcement." I turn the radio off and on again, but the same voice keeps reading stock reports. This is supposed to be an emergency radio that only connects to the Park Service. It shouldn't be picking up financial news. Rex whimpers and presses against my legs. He's staring at something behind me. I turn around and see more signs that this place has been invaded by something unnatural. The hiking boots from the missing campers are lined up next to a fallen log. 6 pairs of boots, all facing the same direction, arranged like they're waiting for an inspection. But it's not just that they're lined up neat and tidy, it's the way they're arranged. The boots form a pattern I recognize from my logging days. It's how we used to organize supply deliveries, biggest to smallest, left to right, with exactly 2 feet between each pair. No human arranges their boots like that when they're camping. I'm starting to understand that whatever happened to these campers, it wasn't natural. Something took them, and that something thinks like a business instead of like a living creature. The howling starts just as the sun begins to set. It's coming from across the lake, from the direction of Prophet Island. That's what the local Ojibwe people used to call it before the logging companies moved in. They said it was a cursed place where the spirits of greed lived. The loggers just called it the island and cut down every tree on it for paper pulp. Now nothing grows there, just bare rock and dead soil. The howling doesn't sound like normal wolves. It's too organized, too rhythmic. It sounds like a business meeting where everyone howls instead of talks. Like they're discussing quarterly reports in wolf language. Rex is trembling so hard, I can feel it through his fur. His eyes keep darting between the lake and the tree line, like he's trying to watch for danger from every direction at once. "It's okay, boy," I say, but my voice cracks. It's not okay. Nothing about this is okay. That's when I realize we're being herded. The howling is moving in a pattern around the lake, always staying behind us, always pushing us toward Prophet Island. Whatever is out there, it's not just hunting randomly. It has a plan. It's driving us towards something, like wolves driving deer toward other wolves waiting in ambush. But these aren't normal wolves. Normal wolves hunt for food. This feels like something hunting for a different reason, entirely. My radio crackles back to life. Market analysis suggests strong profits from reduced environmental oversight. The voice continues. Recommended strategy: eliminate all resistance to industrial expansion. I throw the radio into my backpack and grab Rex's collar. Come on. Boy, we're getting out of here. But as we head back toward my canoe, I notice something that makes my stomach drop. My compass isn't pointing north anymore. The needle is pointing directly toward the largest paper mill, 60 miles away. No matter which way I turn, the needle swings to point at that mill like it's the most important thing in the world. Like something is calling to it, or something is calling from it. The howling gets closer, and now I can hear something else mixed in with it. Something that sounds like laughter, but not human laughter, corporate laughter. The kind of cold, calculating amusement you hear in boardrooms when someone announces they found a way to cut costs by cutting corners. Rex tugs at his collar, trying to pull me toward the canoe faster. Smart dog. He knows we need to get off this lake before dark. But as we reach the shore, I see something floating in the water that makes me stop dead in my tracks. Dead fish, dozens of them, floating belly up in the green water, but they're not scattered randomly like fish usually are when they die from pollution. They're arranged to spell out the logos of 3 major paper companies. Someone, or something, D, is sending a message. I push my canoe into the water as fast as I can, with Rex jumping in behind me. The sun is almost gone now, and the lake looks like a mirror made of green poison. I paddle hard toward the opposite shore, away from Prophet Island and away from that organized howling. But I'm not fast enough. The howling stops suddenly, and the silence is worse than the noise. In that quiet, I can hear something big moving through the water behind us. Not swimming, walking, like something tall enough to wade through the deep parts of the lake without getting its head wet. Come on, I whisper, paddling harder. My arms are burning, but I don't dare slow down. Rex is pressed against the bottom of the canoe, whimpering. His ears are flat against his head, and he won't look back at whatever is following us. That's when I hear the voice. Dad! I stop paddling. My hands are shaking so hard I almost drop the paddle. It's Danny's voice, clear as day, coming from somewhere behind us on the water. Dad, why did you stop? I need to talk to you. I want to turn around. Every part of me wants to see my son again, to hear his voice one more time. But Rex is growling now, a low warning sound that tells me, this is not my boy. You killed my future for money, Dad. You chose your paycheck over my world. The voice is getting closer. I can hear footsteps in the water, big splashing steps like someone walking through puddles. But the steps are too heavy, too slow. Danny was light on his feet, quick and energetic. This sounds like something much bigger, trying to sound like my son. I force myself to keep paddling, but the voice follows. Look at me, Dad. Turn around and look at what your greed created. Against my better judgment, I turn my head just enough to see over my shoulder. What I see makes me wish I hadn't looked. It's walking upright through the water like a man, but it's 9 feet tall and covered in grey fur. The head is a wolf's head, with yellow eyes that glow like headlights. But it's wearing clothes, a business suit made from what looks like tree bark and more grey fur. In one massive clawed hand, it carries a briefcase. Not a normal briefcase, but one that looks like it's made from bones held together with fishing line. And it's still talking in Danny's voice. You see, Dad? This is what happens when people choose profits over the planet. The poison makes monsters. Behind the creature, I can see its pack. 20 wolves, all walking upright like people, all wearing little ties made from fishing line and bird feathers around. Their necks, Their eyes don't reflect the moonlight like normal wolf eyes. Instead, they show numbers and symbols, like the stock reports on my broken radio. The big one, the leader, takes another step closer to my canoe. Water drips from its suit, and I can see that the briefcase is moving slightly, like something inside is trying to get out. "My name is Corporate Efficiency," it says, still using Danny's voice. "I used to be human, just like you. I was a CEO who loved money more than anything else. I loved it so much that when the poison killed my body, my greed kept me alive." Rex is shaking so hard the whole canoe is vibrating. He keeps looking at the pack leader, then looking at me, like he's trying to tell me something important. "Your dog understands," the creature says. "Animals always understand before humans do. He knows he has a choice to make." I look down at Rex, and my heart breaks. His eyes are starting to glow with the same green light as the lake water. The poison is getting to him too, just like it got to everything else. "Rex, no," I whisper. "Stay with me, boy." But Rex's eyes are getting brighter. He's fighting it, I can tell. His whole body is tense, like he's trying to resist something pulling at his mind. The pack leader laughs, and it's the worst sound I've ever heard. Like the sound of a cash register mixed with a wolf's howl. "Everything touched by industrial poison belongs to me now," it says. "The fish, the birds, the trees, the water, and your dog. Soon, you too will join my pack." It opens the bone briefcase, and papers fly out like bats. But these aren't normal papers. They're contracts written in something dark red that looks like blood. The papers flutter around my canoe, and I can see what's written on them. Environmental crimes. Every bad thing that happened to this lake written down like a business deal. The acid rain, the chemical spills, the dead fish. All of it planned, out like a corporate strategy. "Sign 1, the creature says. "Join us willingly, and I'll let you see your son again. Refuse, and watch your dog become one of my hunting pack." Rex whimpers and looks at me, with eyes that are now glowing bright green. But in that green glow, I can still see my good dog trying to fight back. "I've seen what you do to the things you control," I say, gripping my grandfather's silver knife. "You turn them into monsters like you." The pack leader steps closer. Water pours off its wetsuit, and I can smell something awful, like a mixture of wet dog and industrial chemicals. "Monsters," it laughs. "I prefer the term efficient workers. My pack never questions orders. They never worry about environmental consequences. They just do what needs to be done to maximize profits." Behind it, the 20 wolves in ties start howling again, but now I can understand what they're saying. It's not howling, they're chanting quarterly earnings reports. "Choose, Robert Sullivan," the creature says. "Sign my contract and become part of the most successful pack in the wilderness, or watch everything you love die from the poison your kind created." Rex looks at me one more time. His eyes are almost completely green now, but he's still my dog. He's still trying to protect me, even as the chemical poison fights to take control of his mind. I have to make a choice. But first, I need to remember something my grandfather taught me about silver and the old ways. Something about how greed can be killed, but only if you're willing to pay the price yourself. I pull out my grandfather's silver knife and start carving symbols into my wooden paddle. The same protection marks I'd seen on those old Ojibwe fishing posts before the acid water dissolved them. My grandfather taught me these symbols when I was Danny's age, though I never thought I'd need them. The pack leader sees what I'm doing and snarls. For the first time, it doesn't sound like Danny anymore. It sounds like an angry animal mixed with the screech of factory machinery. "Old superstitions won't save you," it growls. "Silver and native magic are no match for corporate power." But as I carve the symbols deeper into the wood, they start to glow with a soft white light. The chemical green glow of the lake water gets a little dimmer around my canoe. Rex blinks, and for a moment his eyes are brown again instead of green. "That's it, boy," I whisper. "Fight it. You're stronger than their poison." The pack leader. Wades closer, and now I can see it clearly. This thing used to be human. Under the grey fur and wolf features, I can still see the shape of a man in an expensive suit. But the suit is rotting, held together by mud and dead fish. I was the CEO of the biggest paper company in the Midwest, it says, its voice shifting. Between Danny's and something much older and meaner, I turned 1,000 square miles of forest into money. I poisoned 50 lakes to increase our quarterly profits, and when the chemicals finally killed my body, my greed was so strong it wouldn't let me die. The 20 wolves behind it start moving through the water in perfect formation, like soldiers marching in a parade. Each one carries something in its mouth, pieces of camping gear from the missing campers. Your son tried to stop me, you know, the pack leader continues. That night he died, he came out here because he sensed what was happening to the lake. He was going to take water samples back to the authorities. My heart stops. You killed Danny. I offered him the same choice I'm offering you. Join my pack, help me turn this wilderness into profit, and live forever as part of my corporate family. He refused. The rage hits me like a physical blow. This thing murdered my boy, and it's been using Danny's voice to torment me. So I held him under the water until he stopped struggling, it says with Danny's voice. But I kept his voice as a souvenir. CEOs like to collect trophies. I grip the silver knife so hard, my knuckles turn white. The symbols on my paddle are glowing brighter now, and the pack leader takes a step back. You made one mistake, I tell it. You used my son's voice to hurt me. But Danny's voice also reminds me why I need to fight. I start paddling toward the creature instead of away from it. Rex barks, a normal, healthy bark, and the green glow fades from his eyes completely. The pack leader raises its briefcase like a weapon. You can't win, Sullivan. I have an army of poisoned animals under my control. I have the power of industrial greed behind me. Maybe, I say, standing up in the canoe with my knife ready, but you forgot something important about greed. The creature lunges at me, claws extended, mouth open to show teeth like broken glass. Greed always destroys itself. I drive my grandfather's silver knife straight into the thing's chest, right where a human heart would be. The blade slides in easy, like cutting through wet cardboard. The pack leader screams, but not with Danny's voice anymore. Now it sounds like 20 different voices all screaming at once, the voices of every person whose greed helped poison these waters. This is for Danny, I whisper, and for every living thing you murdered for money. The creature falls backward into the water with a splash that sounds like a tree falling. Black blood pours from the wound, but instead of mixing with the lake water, it rises up like smoke and disappears. The 20 wolves in ties start howling, but their howls are getting higher and more desperate. One by one they sink into the water and don't come back up. Rex barks again, and this time it's a happy bark. His eyes are completely brown now, and his tail is wagging. But something's wrong with me. I can feel the chemicals in the water affecting me too. My throat burns, and my vision is getting blurry. I've been breathing the poisoned air and touching the toxic water for too long. Rex, I whisper, sitting back down in the canoe. I don't think I'm going to make it back to shore. But then something amazing happens. As the pack leader's body dissolves in the water, the green glow starts to fade. The lake water begins to clear, like someone pulled a plug and let all the poison drain out. Fish that I thought were dead start swimming again. The chemical smell in the air gets weaker. Rex licks my face, and I realize I can breathe easier. The burning in my throat is going away. Good boy, I say, scratching behind his ears. We did it. Doomed, but the strangest thing happens when I try to thank Rex for staying loyal to me instead of joining the pack leader. When I open my mouth to speak, what comes out is a howl. Not a scary howl like the corporate wolves. A real wolf howl, wild and free and full of life. Rex tilts his head and looks at me curiously. I try to say his name, but again, all that comes out is howling. But somehow, I know Rex understands me perfectly, and I can understand him when he barks back. The pack leader's death changed me. I can still think like a human, but I can also talk to every animal in the forest that was hurt by the industrial poison. They need someone to speak for them, someone to tell their story to the people who make the laws. 3 months later, I testified before Congress about what happened to Mirror Lake. When I tried to speak, wolf howls came out instead of words. But somehow, everyone in that room understood exactly what I was saying. They passed the strongest environmental protection laws in history the next week. I still work as a ranger, and Rex is still my partner, but now we protect the wilderness in a different way. Every animal that was hurt by chemical pollution can talk to me, and I can howl their stories to anyone who will listen. Danny would be proud. I finally became the environmental activist he always wanted me to be, even if I have to howl instead of talk to do it. Some nights, when the moon is full and the lake is clear again, I howl Danny's name across the water. And sometimes, in the echo that comes back, I swear I can hear him howling back.